Horizon Forbidden West is getting its first major expansion, titled Burning Shores, which will take Aloy to a decimated Los Angeles next year. This DLC had been leaked earlier this week with reports that the next chapter in the story of Horizon Forbidden West would take players to California. Hints and teases towards the titular Burning Shores coupled with a previous leak on the Horizon Forbidden West DLC led to many predicting that the DLC would be revealed at the Game Awards 2022, which, the announcement of this DLC would follow a similar pattern that the Frozen Wilds DLC did by releasing less than a year after Horizon Zero Dawn. Burning Shores finally got a formal reveal at the Game Awards 2022 with a new trailer showing series protagonist Aloy traversing a rundown Los Angeles on the back of a Sunwing. Multiple Los Angeles landmarks are seen, including the Capitol Records building and the Hollywood sign. The trailer concludes with a machine moving through the surrounding mountains. In contrast to the Frozen Wilds DLC for Horizon Zero Dawn, which took players to the freezing climates of Yellowstone, the Burning Shores appear to be overrun by volcanic activity. Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores will release for the PS5 on April 19, 2023. Burning Shores is an ambitious expansion which will take Aloy to the ruins of Los Angeles. It's an overgrown and fractured city that can be fully explored via the water and flying on the back of a Sunwing. A massive machine threat called Horus lurks in its shadows, a huge challenge that Aloy must overcome by using all of her skills and abilities. Burning Shores will only be releasing for the PS5 and not on previous gen platforms. A statement on Guerrilla Games' website reads, "To achieve this grand vision technically and creatively, we've made the difficult decision to focus all our efforts on making an incredible experience exclusively for the PlayStation 5 console." Along with the upcoming Horizon Call of the Mountain game for the PSVR 2, the PS5 appears to be the new permanent home of the Horizon series. New footage for Call of the Mountain was also shown at the Game Awards, showcasing different machines, the launch date. "I'm really looking forward to fight Horus in the Burning Shores, that I hope will bring me back to the memories of the Greek saga of God of War." The Game Awards 2022 was host to many video game announcements, but one of the most surprising ones was the reveal of a Castlevania-themed DLC for Dead Cells, Motion Twins' indie Metroidvania roguelike. The title was originally released in 2018 for PC and consoles, and in the years since has made its way to mobile devices with multiple paid expansions. Motion Twin showed off an animated trailer for Dead Cells' return to Castlevania DLC during the big showcase, which was similar to past DLC trailer style. However, as the trailer went on, viewers can see some of the iconic characters from the Castlevania series, Richter Belmont and Alucard. No actual gameplay was shown during the trailer, but the developers did put up a blog on Steam that goes into more detail on what fans can expect from the Konami collaboration. First and foremost, the DLC is going to cost players $10 when it launches in Q1 of 2023. Q1 is pretty much from January to the end of March, so fans should expect a final release date very soon. The new content does cost a little bit more than previous DLC packs, but Motion Twin explains in the post that the new pricing reflects the fact that the scope of this DLC is quite a lot bigger than previous DLCs, as well as the inclusion of the Castlevania IP. It appears that Dead Cells players won't actually be playing as Alucard or Richter during the DLC, but there will be 20 outfits to unlock featuring designs for Alucard, Richter, Simon, Mario Renard, Trevor, and even Dracula. Plus, there will be 2 new biomes, all themed around Dracula's castle, giving Dead Cells a total Castlevania makeover. Players can expect a lot of weapons familiar to the Castlevania franchise, like the throwing axe and holy water, and there will be Castlevania-themed enemies to fight against too. It's also worth noting that Dead Cells players will be able to hear over 60 tracks from the Castlevania universe. With the Netflix Castlevania series seeing critical acclaim since its start in 2017 and the God of War Ragnarok director wanting to make a game in the franchise one day, it may appear that the Konami series is on its way to becoming popular once again. After the new Dead Cells DLC comes out, it would be interesting to see if interest in the Castlevania IP increases. The developers of Dead Cells revealed the Castlevania series as a major inspiration behind the game. Dead Cells centers around the prisoner, who awakens with amnesia inside a mysterious prison. The prisoner is immortal, but must possess the corpses of other prisoners in order to be able to move around and fight. As the prisoner repeatedly attempts to escape the island on which he is trapped, The player gradually learns about how the island used to be a mighty kingdom before it was taken down by a mysterious plague called the Malaise. The design, plot, and mechanics of the game all draw heavily from Castlevania, especially the powerful bosses which the prisoner must face. So far, Dead Cells has received 2 DLC expansions, Rise of the Giant and the Queen and the Sea. Both allow the prisoner to learn even more about the island's history, and introduce new locations such as a creepy, long-abandoned lighthouse. While the initial trailer for Return to Castlevania did not reveal much information about the DLC's plot, it is likely that it will see the prisoner leave the island and somehow travel to Dracula's domain, where he will apparently ally with the Belmonts and attempt to take down Dracula. And the trailer did not yet reveal how exactly the prisoner gets to the Castlevania world, and we get to uncover this mystery. The most recent game in the long-running Castlevania series was Castlevania, Lords of Shadow 2, which released in 2014 for Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC. It starred Dracula, who had previously primarily served as an antagonist to the Belmont family. I love the Lords of Shadow trilogy, but the lame-ass media and sheep-minded gamers killed the franchise. While earlier Castlevania titles have received ports and re-releases over the years, and the franchise has been adapted into a well-received series on Netflix, no new titles have been announced, despite high fan demand. Many fans of the series are hoping that the announcement of the Dead Cells collaboration mean that Konami or some collaborator may be working on another main series game in the franchise. Even if one is not currently in development, many are hopeful that the Return to Castlevania DLC for Dead Cells will reignite interest in the series and bring in many new Castlevania fans. While nothing has been set in stone, the announcement of new Castlevania-themed content after so long is enough to leave many fans feeling optimistic. No release date has officially been announced for the Dead Cells DLC, but more information will be revealed at a later date. Publisher Raw Fury has released a new trailer for a game called Post-Trauma in conjunction with the Game Awards 2022. The 57-second video is brief, but dripping with horror and promise. Raw Fury is best known for publishing visually stunning indie titles such as Backbone, Goner 2, and more recently the hit Sable. The publisher's website states that they don't care about genres or mechanics but rather that they care about experiences and emotions. This motto has led the publisher to having that previously mentioned stellar portfolio, and Post-Trauma looks like it will be another huge hit. The game is developed by a studio named Red Soul Games, which doesn't seem to have much of an online presence beyond the Twitter page for Post-Trauma. The short trailer itself follows an older man in what looks to be a janitor's or mechanic's jumpsuit, as he navigates through a creepy set of corridors and subway tracks. Judging by the vending machines, general layout of the subway system, and the character's facial appearance, it seems as though the title is due to be set in Japan, or at least a nightmare of Japan. The trailer also shows off some classic survival horror puzzles, and a save system akin to the Resident Evil typewriters. There's also scenes of murky shadows of what could be monsters, static-laden CCTV footage, creepy tendrils extruding from a glowing hole, a wall made of mannequin-like bodies, and the old man wading through a deep pool of blood. Needless to say, these images are bold and already set this title as a memorable horror experience. The Twitter page for Post-Trauma is rather modest, in a way that is entirely reassuring for indie game fans as it suggests a subdued approach. The page has posts written in first person, which gives the project a personal feel, like this is a title being worked on by a passionate creator. They also often bolster other creators in the indie horror genre by retweeting the work of others. Until recently, Red Soul Games had also pinned a tweet stating that a new demo will soon be available on Steam, while an older version of the demo is available on itch.io, and that exciting news was coming soon. That pinned tweet has now been replaced by the Game Awards reveal trailer. With news of new Silent Hill games, a remaster of Silent Hill 2, and the amazing output from the Resident Evil franchise recently, it's fair to say that survival horror is experiencing a revival. Though some people are not happy about Bloober Team making the Silent Hill 2, and some people have been decrying the amount of remakes and remasters in recent years. No matter one's stance on reviving old franchises, it's good to see new IPs take inspiration from these older experiences, and hopefully bring forward new ideas and stories. Judging by the Post-Trauma reveal trailer's atmosphere alone, it seems like a very promising release. The Game Awards 2022 was full of game announcements as expected, but one of the most surprising new indie titles announced is Viewfinder, a game by Scottish development company SOS Games. What makes Viewfinder such a surprising reveal is that it originated from a tech demo released by one of the game's developers, Matt Stark. The game has gone far from the original tech demo by this point and appears to be aligning itself with other famous spatial puzzle games like Superliminal and The Witness. The Witness made a splash as legendary indie developer Jonathan Blow's follow-up title after the breakout success of the time-traveling platformer Braid. The game focused on a combination of grid-based puzzle systems but made heavy use of perspective tricks and required elaborate environmental cues in order to expand its puzzle design to combine every aspect of the island players explore. In a similar vein, Superliminal relied on optical illusions and perspective mechanics to allow players to navigate space and change the size of objects based on the player's relative position to them. Viewfinder similarly relies on careful attention to environmental detail to produce mind-bending results, but its development origins are far from similar. Matt Stark, as described by his personal website, is a 27-year-old Scottish developer who was studying computer game technology at Abertay University until 2020. Stark posted a brief Twitter video on January 3, 2020, which showcased examples of the picture-taking technology that would become the core of the gameplay. It went viral from there, as the original tweet of his tech demo currently stands at over 200,000 likes and 66,000 retweets. The demand for a game using his technology was undeniable. From there, Stark dropped out of school and dedicated himself to working on Viewfinder. Since then, based on development updates from Viewfinder's Twitter account and this newly released trailer, that SOS Games has taken the concept to very exciting places. It is difficult to explain the technology behind Viewfinder's physics-defying mechanics, but in the words of its developer, when the player takes a photo, I duplicate the environment, make it grayscale and slice the meshes to remove anything outside the photo. When they place it into the world, I slice the environment's meshes to make a hole for the photo. Much in the way that Superliminal's object resizing mechanic relies on taking information from the player's relative position to seamlessly modify the environment. Viewfinder is elegantly carving out slices of its world and remaking them to fit the exact perspective of photographs so that players can reshape the world effortlessly. The result is as fascinating as it is stunning. The trailer for Viewfinder begins with the player character walking into an image of the original tweet that led to the game's development. From there, various applications of the perspective-bending picture-taking mechanic are showcased, including stationary cameras, handheld cameras, and the various ways the player will be able to hold photos against the landscape, rotate them, and then release them to produce entirely new environments to explore. One especially compelling new feature in the trailer is the way that the color within photographs will impact the environment. In the trailer, when a black and white photo is applied to the world, the player is able to take objects from that environment and place them within their own full-color world to solve puzzles. The sharp clash of aesthetics and color palettes is executed elegantly, and when players are given the chance to experience the game themselves, it is almost certain to produce some beautiful screenshots. The application of sound-based objects remains somewhat unclear, but the use of Edvard Munch's The Scream as a replicable sound source seems to be another exciting mechanic for players to experiment with. Unfortunately, there is currently no official date for when players will be able to get their hands on the exciting world of Viewfinder. If the success of Superliminal and The Witness are anything to go by, players will be ready when the game does release. I like these type of out-of-the-box different type games, and I'm looking forward to this. Capcom unveils a new Street Fighter VI trailer at the Game Awards, confirming a ton of new information including characters like DJ, stages, and the long-awaited release date. Capcom continues to ride high following its reveal of Street Fighter VI earlier this year. Switching to the RE engine, Street Fighter VI wowed fans with an all-new look including familiar characters that have aged a bit from what fans have come to expect. Over the past few months, tons of new details for Street Fighter VI have continued to appear online through new trailers as well as the closed beta test. Fans got an early look at revamped characters like Luke and Ken, as well as trying out all new originals such as Kimberly and Jamie. For the first time, the Street Fighter series now has an open-world campaign which allows players to create their own character, explore Metro City, and take on challengers. The big question for many, however, was when fans would be able to finally get their hands on the game. Thankfully, that question has now been answered thanks to a brand new trailer that debuted at the Game Awards. The trailer was packed with new information, including confirming the Street Fighter VI launch date leak of June 2nd. While exciting enough on its own, the trailer provided fans a whole lot more, including a new look at stages set in locations like Metro City and France, as well as some of the mini-games that can be played, including the classic basketball parry that Third Strike players will likely remember. The trailer also managed to confirm more Street Fighter VI characters that leaked following the game's initial reveal. Classic fighter DJ makes his return alongside 3 new characters like the graceful dancer Manon, Marissa, who is flanked by what looks like Roman legionnaires in her stage, and the mysterious power-wielding JP. Towards the end of the trailer, their critical art moves are showcased, adding a bit of flair to their super moves. While fans still have a wait ahead of them before the game's launch, Capcom recently announced a second closed beta test kicking off on December 16th and running through that weekend. Those in the first test will be automatically invited, and additional players will be selected at random as long as they signed up on the official website. Shortly after this trailer dropped, Capcom revealed bonus costumes that will be included for pre-orders of this game. These were showcased in a new trailer from the game's official channel and are available for 6 characters in the game: Chun-Li, DJ, Jamie, Manon, Yuri, and Ken. These costumes for Street Fighter VI give different color palettes for each fighter that are based on their default costumes. Chun-Li gets a red and black makeover for her default costume, while Jamie gets mainly black attire, with his hair dyed white. DJ also gets in on the fun with a black and pink variation of his costume, while French fashionista newcomer Manon has a more red and purple attire, with her hair also dyed purple. This costume makes her bear a resemblance to another Street Fighter character, Rose. Yuri gets a white and blue variation to her usual attire, while Ken gets a red jacket with his hair also dyed white. Many fans have compared Ken's variation in particular to Dante from the Devil May Cry series due to how similar they look. According to Capcom, these costumes are the 10th color variation for the first outfit for each of these characters. It also states that these colors will be added to Street Fighter VI at a later date after launch. More colors and alternate costumes like these are likely going to be revealed in the future, considering the additional outfits for characters like Luke, or the classic costumes for returning veterans like Ryu. Street Fighter VI will launch on June 2, 2023, with a whopping total of 4 different editions. As can be expected of a modern AAA game, Street Fighter VI will have both a standard edition and a deluxe edition, which grants players a 1-year character pass, some special outfits, and 4,200 drive tickets. Street Fighter VI is also offering players an Ultimate Edition, which gives players 2 additional stages, exclusive outfits for DLC characters, and even more drive tickets. But for those wanting to really splash the cash, Street Fighter SXS Collector's Edition is for them. The Street Fighter VI Collector's Edition is not for the faint of heart or the franchise's more casual fans. At an insane $250, Street Fighter SXS Collector's Edition is strictly for those superfans who want to collect every digital and physical goodie they can get their hands on. For reference, Street Fighter SXS Standard Edition is $60, its Deluxe Edition is $85, and its Ultimate Edition is $105. But the Collector's Edition isn't without its draws. First things first, the Street Fighter VI Collector's Edition comes with all the digital pack-ins included with the Deluxe and Ultimate Editions of the game. This means that players have access to the Year 1 Character Pass, including the exclusive outfits for each DLC fighter, the 2 additional stages, some additional colors, and a total of 7,600 drive tickets. It's currently unclear just how these drive tickets will work, but they'll presumably be used to unlock more in-game cosmetics for each fighter. Technically counted as a feature, the first of the Collector's Edition's exclusive items is the big box it all comes in. Colored in red, this box is covered in a stylish design that's ripped straight from the game. The front of the box has a giant Mad Gear logo on it, which is one of the game's primary street gangs. Players will probably run into the Mad Gear gang a lot during their adventure through Street Fighter SXS Metro City. The real meat and potatoes of the Street Fighter VI Collector's Edition are the 2 17-inch statues that come with it. One of these figures captures the likeness of Street Fighter SXS Luke, who was first introduced as a DLC character in Street Fighter V. The other statue is of Kimberly, a brand new character to Street Fighter VI who uses the Bushinryu style of fighting, and trains under Guy. The collector's edition also comes with a few diorama boards that fans can use as a backdrop for their figures, each referencing a Street Fighter VI arena. The Street Fighter VI Collector's Edition also comes with a sticker set and an art book that features a range of Street Fighter VI concept art. The gorgeous animations and vibrant colors permeating every part of the game were on full display when DJ, Manon, Marissa, and JP formally joined SF6 roster, but the graphics are worse. Coupled with another World Tour mode teaser, this may be the most exciting Street Fighter VI trailer yet, and fans are already keen on learning more about these new fighters. The first of Street Fighter VI's new batch of characters is the only returning fighter of the set. Hailing from Jamaica, DJ's personality and fighting style remain loud and proud. He joined the franchise in Super Street Fighter II, but modern-day fans will probably remember him from his infamously low-tier appearance in Street Fighter IV. It's been a long time since DJ has taken the stage, and with an even more stylish version of his classic moves that seem to trade out maracas for a rhythm minigame, this DJ hero should help his foes unwind. DJ was not the only dancing artist revealed in this set, as the French fighter Manon is a newcomer to the Street Fighter franchise. While she works as a fashion model, she's also an expert ballet dancer and judoka, both of which she utilizes in battle. Every movement Manon makes comes out like a dance move, but she is a momentum-based grappler, building up metal levels as she lands certain attacks. Serving similarly to a revised version of Street Fighter IV's Abel, Manon will be one to watch out for once Street Fighter VI releases. Next up is Marissa, an Italian pancration expert who believes she has the blood of ancient Roman centurions flowing through her veins. Whether that's true is irrelevant, as Marissa is capable of crushing her opponents flat all the same. Marissa bucks the trend of big-body Street Fighter characters being grapplers, instead serving as a Juggernaut or Broly-style fighter who hits hard and relies on super armor. Those who are conditioned to trading with her will be in for a rude surprise when she pulls out her counter move, and it feels like this intimidation factor is a core part of Marissa's identity when she strides onto the battlefield. Finally, players got to see some gameplay for the mysterious JP. His relation to G and Q is still unclear, but it seems like he might know M. Bison. They appear to share the use of psycho power, but JP deploys it in strange reality-bending ways. With the ability to summon Mortal Kombat-style shadow clones to grapple foes, as well as spikes and rifts to teleport through. JP should prove to be an exciting addition to the Street Fighter franchise. For now, players will just need to be patient when it comes to finding out what's truly going on with this mysterious fighter. Supergiant Games shocked the Game Awards and fans across the world with the announcement of Hades II, a sequel to the popular 2020 roguelike. It's likely no coincidence that the original Hades was first announced at the Game Awards 2018, now Supergiant is back and ready to reveal Hades II. Hades wasn't the first Supergiant Games title to stir up Game of the Year conversation, but it was certainly the most successful. In Hades, players take on the role of Zagreus as he seeks to escape from his father's domain, the Underworld. Escaping the Underworld is just a step forward in Zagreus' journey, however. Each loop, whether it's a success or failure, offers a deeper look at Zagreus as a person, as players experience his developing relationships and growth, all with some intense roguelike action along the way. The announcement trailer for Hades 2 makes clear that the sequel won't deviate too far from the experience delivered in the first game. Instead of Zagreus, however, players take control of a new character referred to as a witch with the name Melano. She mentions pursuing her father, who appears to be Hades, who has been chained and taken prisoner by Kronos. The witch bears the same heterochromatic eyes as Zagreus, however, perhaps indicating her genealogy is more complicated than it seems. Supergiant Games also took the opportunity to showcase Hades 2's gameplay during the announcement trailer. It is once again an isometric action game where the protagonist will wield different weapons, take on skills from the gods as they progress, and very likely repeat a loop of increasing challenge and reward. Much like with the original Hades, Supergiant Games has confirmed that Hades 2 will be released in early access. That means that it will be released partially finished, allowing for Supergiant Games to gather data and feedback as it continues to work toward completion. Early access for Hades 2 is planned for 2023. One of the key ways in which Hades 2 could improve upon the original game is by adding more variety to its environments. Players were limited to exploring a single Greek mythology-inspired underworld in Hades, which, while atmospheric and interesting, became somewhat repetitive over multiple playthroughs. In Hades 2, players hope to see the game's world expand, including exploring new locations and environments, which appears to be the case according to the reveal trailer. These new environments would add more visual interest to the game and provide new conversational opportunities with new gods and mythic mortals. Another way Hades 2 could improve upon the original game is by adding new enemies and bosses to the mix. The unique settings of Hades 2 could include new enemies too, like chimera, giants, pythons, and even dragons. These new enemies would not only add more variety to the sequel but would also provide new challenges and strategies for players to overcome. For example, chimera could be immune to certain weapons or magic, forcing players to adapt their tactics. In Greek mythology, Kronos is a titan, some of the first beings in the universe. These titans gave birth to the Greek gods, who would eventually band together to overthrow their parents, creating a new world in the process. Kronos is one of the most important titans, being the embodiment of time and the father of Zeus, Poseidon, Demeter, Hera, Hestia, and Hades. After being imprisoned in Tartarus for literal ages, it seems as though Kronos is on a mission of revenge, and it's likely the rest of his family would be keen to join. Hades 2 seems primed to feature Titans as its main antagonists, and as such, it's a safe bet that players will get to face off against some of them through boss battles. The first Hades featured some incredibly memorable boss fights, with each character using a unique moveset that harkened back to their mythology in subtle, rewarding ways. The Bone Hydra boss battle is a perfect example of this, sprouting more heads as the fight goes on despite the unique contributions of its battlefield. There's a lot of potential in Hades 2 using the Titans as bosses, and there are a few that should definitely make the cut. Two Titans have already been mentioned in Hades, those being Hyperion and Thea. Brother and sister, Hyperion is the Titan embodiment of the sun, while Thea is the embodiment of sight and vision. A boss fight featuring both Hyperion and Thea could offer some unique mechanics, with lighting being used to blind the player and keep them on their toes, perhaps having to use the game's audio to detect oncoming attacks. Mnemosyne is another Titan who could make for a great boss fight in Hades 2, with her powers revolving around memory in a way that could turn that encounter into more of a puzzle game. Other Titans that could make an appearance are Atlas, Perseus, Gaia, etc. Hades 2 could also improve upon the original game by adding more depth and complexity to its combat system. Players in Hades could pick from a handful of various weapons and magic to take on enemies with multiple boons and passive upgrades to enhance each run. Still, some players felt that the combat was shallow and repetitive. In Hades 2, players have also expressed a desire for more variety added to the combat system in the form of an even bigger selection of weapons, magic, and boons to enhance power over multiple runs. Hades 2 could even have stacking buffs as rare random loot mid-run for further combat complexity and overall replayability. Another route Supergiant Games could go for added depth in Hades 2's gameplay is through weapons, magic, and boons that stack and synergize with themselves and each other. The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus is a perfect example of items that synergize in surprising ways to create builds that potentially turn the player into an undying god. An additional method for improving Hades gameplay may lie in how floors are generated. More rooms and room layouts would be a simple way to increase how different each run feels. Combining greater room layouts with specially themed rooms that feature extra conversation encounters with gods in Hades 2 would certainly be one way to improve. Another improvement could be rooms that offer unique gameplay mechanics like navigable puzzles with traps straight out of something like Rogue Legacy 2. While it is uncertain whether these improvements will be included in Hades 2, they would certainly be welcome additions. Ultimately, said additions would make the sequel to Hades an even more exciting and enjoyable roguelike for players to experience. With the original Hades, much of what makes Hades 2 so special is the mystery that awaits players to delve into. Players will meet a roster of new characters, travel through new locations, discover new secrets, and embrace the rich world Supergiant Games has created step by step. There is not that much information in an actual myth about Melano, rather she mostly appears in the Orphic hymns. Players will note that Melano has a striking resemblance to Zagreus, from their attire to their fiery feet. This is because they are siblings, both being born from Hades and Persephone. The Orphic hymns leave this bit up to interpretation, as another way to take it isn't Hades that is Melino's father, but Zeus disguised as Hades. She is described in hymns as having partly black and partly white limbs that represent a dual chthonic and heavenly nature. Supergiant Games designed Melino with these aspects in mind and seem to be hinting at this dual nature. Melino is described in the Orphic hymn as being clad in saffron, which is an epithet in ancient Greek poetry for moon goddesses. Among the hymns, the only goddesses that are described as being clad in saffron are Melino and Hecate. Much like Zagreus was alluded to be another form of Dionysus, something that Hades has fun with, Melino can be alluded to be a form of Hecate. This is fitting as Hecate also appears in the trailer for Hades 2 and will act as a mentor to Melino in the game. Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft and crossroads in Greek mythology, which suggests that witchcraft will play a role in the gameplay of Hades 2. Melino's connections to Hecate and witchcraft describe what kind of goddess she is. She's a nymph goddess who wanders the earth with ghosts at night and brings night terrors to mortals by manifesting in strange forms. This causes the people she visits in this way to be driven to madness. Her name means either dark-minded or propitiation-minded and has connections to offerings to ghosts of the dead. The hymn she appears in shows an Orphic initiate attempting to placate her by showing that they respect her nature, avoiding the harm that they know she can cause. Through Melino, Hades 2 could focus much more on witchcraft and ghosts than Hades. The role of witchcraft, magic, and a connection to both the underworld and Olympus will likely play a role in Melino's character and how she plays in Hades 2. Players got to see other mythological figures like Apollo and Nemesis, so Melino must have some sort of relationship with both of them. At the end of Hades, if the game is played to completion, Zagreus organizes a reconciliation between Hades and Persephone, and repairs his own strained relationship with his father. Hades even assigns Zagreus a new job where he is encouraged to try escaping the underworld in order to expose flaws in Hades' security system. He may not star as the protagonist of this sequel because he is now content in his role. However, we can hope that Zagreus, alongside Megaera and Thanatos, as well as other fan-favorite characters, might make a return as NPCs. The first official trailer for Hades 2 revealed little, focusing primarily on Melino and only briefly featuring other characters. Yet Zagreus' lack of appearance should not be taken as a sign that he will not appear at all, as there are a number of roles that Zagreus could play: a mentor to Melino, a combat trainer, or simply a side character enjoying his retirement. Other characters not yet confirmed to be returning include Orpheus, Eurydice, Megaera, Thanatos. The other Greek gods, as well as Theseus and his Minotaur companion. Hopefully, Zagreus' fate will be revealed in future trailers for Hades 2, or at least confirmed when the game enters early access in 2023. BioShock creator Ken Levine has finally revealed his first new game since BioShock Infinite, and it's a brand new first-person shooter IP called Judas. Ken Levine is most famous for his work on the BioShock franchise, directing the original game as well as BioShock Infinite, both of which are considered landmark releases. After BioShock Infinite's launch in 2013, Levine formed Ghost Story Games to work on a new project. Fans have been waiting nearly a decade to learn about Levine's next project, and now it has finally been revealed to the world. Judas was revealed at the Game Awards with an impressive trailer that definitely gave off BioShock vibes. A single-player narrative-driven first-person shooter, Judas is aiming for release on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X. In it, players take on the role of Judas, who has to find a way to escape a disintegrating starship. There's still a lot left to be revealed about Judas' plot, but the game is meant to follow in the footsteps of Levine's previous titles, so it's definitely something BioShock fans will want to keep an eye on. What's interesting is that Ghost Story Games is actually self-publishing the title. Ghost Story Games is a subsidiary of Take-Two Interactive, and since the BioShock games are published by 2K, one could be forgiven for assuming that Ghost Story's first project would be published by 2K as well. However, that is apparently not the case. While Judas is not being published by BioShock publisher 2K, the game still clearly has a lot in common with the BioShock franchise. The gameplay on display in the trailer looks like a dead ringer for BioShock, with environments that would look right at home in Rapture. What seems to set Judas apart from BioShock a bit is that it seems to be more sci-fi focused, with robotic characters and some kind of new technology that's taking the place of plasmids. Based on what's been shown so far, Judas looks as though it will hugely appeal to BioShock fans whenever it releases. Unfortunately, no release window for Judas was announced at the Game Awards. The rest of the trailer looks straight out of BioShock in several ways, starting with the designs of some of the NPCs players will come across. The voiceover in the trailer also hints that these characters may serve a larger purpose than those seen in BioShock. Although BioShock's characters like Fontaine, Dr. Tenenbaum, and Sander Cohen are all unique and play their own roles in the story, it looks as though the characters in Judas will play a more significant role. As footage later in the trailer suggests, the player may even fight alongside these characters, and they might be more like companions in this game as opposed to characters gamers only speak to over the radio and through cutscenes. As the trailer continues, we see glimpses of repeated biopunk enemies, propaganda, and a dystopian world reminiscent of the BioShock games. Some of the enemy designs in Judas have similar characteristics to Big Daddies with their metallic nature and bright red eyes, and one is a small robot with a big lightning bolt on its body, which the player explodes with a shocking effect. Judas shows a few more animalistic origins to its designs, with horsehead enemies and a large mechanical dog that looks to be this game's means of travel within the world, similar to the bathyspheres in BioShock. Regarding gameplay, the trailer shows first-person action with a mix of gunplay and supernatural abilities that look to be this game's version of plasmids. These abilities appear to be less organic and more mechanical in nature, with the player seemingly swapping or recharging the device inside their hand before demonstrating a fire ability, similar to Incinerate from BioShock. Visible from the trailer is what looks to be a revolver and a crossbow, which were weapons present in BioShock. And there are even turrets that one of the NPCs jumps on top of to hack and aim at an enemy. The protagonist is also wielding a hammer instead of a wrench, but fans of BioShock will be pleased to see that the player retains a trusty melee weapon to deliver a classic 1-2 combo. For almost a decade, one of the gaming's most well-known developers, Ken Levine, had basically vanished from the face of the industry. After BioShock Infinite's release in 2013, Levine kept his head down, taking a break from video game development for personal and health reasons. But thanks to a recent announcement, it seems as though Ken Levine is well and truly back, heading up a brand new narrative-focused FPS called Judas. Announced at the Game Awards, Judas looks to take a great deal of inspiration from Levine's past work, in particular the BioShock franchise. There are creepy automatons, elemental hand powers, and plenty of spooky moments plastered throughout the reveal trailer, all of which are commonplace in Ken Levine's games. Though he's been out of the game for quite some time, Levine's wealth of experience in the industry should keep fans hopeful about this new sci-fi shooter. After graduating with a Bachelor of Arts degree in drama back in 1988, Ken Levine moved to LA to fulfill his dream of becoming a screenwriter. Seeing the games industry as a way to build up his writing credits, Levine ended up applying and getting a job at Looking Glass Studios. Here, Levine worked on his very first video game, that being Thief the Dark Project. Officially given the role of designer, Levine helped to create the initial story and design concepts of the game, a large part of what made the original Thief game so iconic. After Thief's release in 1998, Levine was hungry for bigger and better things and decided to leave Looking Glass Studios to found his own development company. Called Irrational Games, this brand new developer began immediate work on the sequel to a Looking Glass sci-fi RPG game. That game became System Shock 2. As the lead writer and designer, Ken Levine is directly responsible for a lot of System Shock 2's groundbreaking features, some of which would go on to inspire the BioShock series. In the early 2000s, Levine, along with the rest of Irrational Games, produced a few pretty different titles. 2002 saw the release of Freedom Force, a tactical RPG heavily inspired by the Silver Age of comics. In 2004, Levine was a writer on Tribe's Vengeance, another sci-fi first-person shooter. Freedom Force would then get a sequel in 2005 titled Freedom Force vs. the Third Reich, along with another release, SWAT 4, which took Irrational Games in a more serious, grounded direction than their previous titles. While Irrational Games had begun to build a name for itself by the mid-2000s, it would take just a few more years before the developer and Ken Levine would be famous names in the gaming industry. Acting as one of the game's creative directors and writers, Ken Levine played a huge role in the development of the original BioShock, a role which would only grow for the series' third entry. Though Levine passed on the opportunity to work on BioShock 2, stating that he'd already written everything he wanted to for Rapture, he came back in full force for BioShock Infinite. Assuming the role of lead writer and creative director, BioShock Infinite was Levine's baby, and following an extremely stressful few years, BioShock Infinite released to critical and commercial success. The first and third BioShock games are actually some of the most best games in the industry, still. However, the stress Levine was put under during development had left him burned out, and in early 2014, Levine announced that Irrational Games would be shutting down. In 2017, Levine, alongside 11 of his former Irrational Games colleagues, founded Ghost Story Games, where he planned on creating another story-focused single-player game. In development for at least 4 years, many people thought that Levine's game was a mere pipe dream, especially when reports earlier this year claimed that the title was stuck in development hell. While it's unclear whether those reports were true, that didn't stop Levine and Ghost Story Games from announcing its next title, Judas, at the Game Awards. On the other hand, BioShock 4 is also in development simultaneously, where you can check out the leaked details on the project here. The latest trailer for Destiny 2 Lightfall debuts at the Game Awards, giving fans their best look yet at the 5 subclass known as Strand. The new trailer probably isn't too surprising considering days earlier, the Game Awards confirmed that a new Destiny 2 Lightfall trailer would debut, though the content itself gave fans a fresh look at a number of new elements in the expansion, including the Neptune city of Neuroma, the Cabal Shadow Legion, as well as plenty of new Strand abilities. Strand is the latest subclass getting added to Destiny 2, joining Stasis, Arc, Void, and Solar. Fans were tipped off to the existence of a new subclass thanks to a Destiny 2 screenshot leak prior to the Lightfall showcase over the summer. Fans got an early look at the possibilities, including a new grapple mechanic which appears to really allow for more creative movement and traversal options. While it's been a while since fans got an update, Bungie fixed that at the Game Awards with an extended gameplay trailer of Lightfall. The Destiny 2 trailer begins with a voiceover from Osiris before kicking into high gear as a hunter backflips down off a building with a slow-motion shot similar to Into the Spider-Verse. Upon landing with a devastating explosive blast, the trailer shifts to explosive combat set in the neon lights of Neptune. A fire team of 3 Guardians wreak havoc on the Shadow Legion using new weapons including a grenade launcher, pulse rifle, and sniper rifle. However, the star of the trailer is clearly Strand, which is featured prominently throughout. Fans saw a hunter use the grapple mechanic to latch onto a Thunder Crash super using Titan, acting as a new way of moving about the map before releasing to drop in on unsuspecting enemies. The Titan also activates their super, giving them sword arms as they slash through enemies, while Warlock sends Seeker missiles to decimate the Cabal. Based on the trailer alone, players will likely have a lot of movement and control style options when using Strand against their enemies. Destiny 2's next expansion, Lightfall, will bring a host of new content for players to explore and conquer, including a powerful enemy known as the Tormentor. These formidable machines could present a significant challenge to even the most skilled Guardians. However, time will tell if Tormentors are full boss encounters that randomly appear, or something closer to an elite enemy like the Hive Guardians in Destiny 2's Witch Queen expansion. The Tormentors' abilities are secret at this point, but they can likely manipulate the battlefield using the darkness. It wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility for Tormentors to create powerful vortexes of dark energy that could suck in and crush anything caught within. It is known that Tormentors can nullify a Guardian's abilities by suppressing their light, forcing them to rely on shooting alone. This mechanic is already present in Destiny 2's Season of the Seraph via certain enemies that can create a field of light nullifying energy. Allowing players to experience this mechanic now is an intelligent way to prepare them for handling Tormentors in Lightfall. Tormentors may also possess other abilities, such as Strand or darkness-based attacks, that allow them to manipulate the environment and players' Guardians in ways Destiny 2's current enemy roster cannot. In terms of visual presence, the Tormentors make even Witch Queen's Hive Lightbearers look bland by contrast. The Lightbearers are already some of the most powerful enemies in the game, but they seem small and weak compared to the Tormentor. With greater difficulty also comes the possibility for better rewards in Destiny 2, especially if slaying a Tormentor drops a chest full of Strand-based guns and armor. One of the most exciting possibilities for Destiny 2 is Tormentors potentially showing up in more parts of the game. Unlike the Hive Guardians, who only appeared in designated locations during the Witch Queen expansion, a Tormentor could potentially arrive in a wider variety of locations and situations. This would make them even more unpredictable and challenging, providing a wealth of unexpected moments that can spice up stale content like strikes. If Bungie allows Tormentors to invade all PvE content in Destiny 2, maybe it will come around to letting Hive Guardians do the same in a future season. Hopefully the Tormentors will be a formidable, celebrated addition to Destiny 2's Lightfall expansion, providing players with a thrilling and satisfying challenge. As Destiny 2 continues to evolve, it will be interesting to see how the Tormentors fit into the broader world and what new opportunities they bring to the sci-fi shooter. Fans are hoping that Lightfall will be the spark that the game sorely needs, as some Destiny 2 players have seemingly grown fatigued of the seasonal model that the game has adopted. Thankfully, Bungie is aware of how fans are feeling, as Destiny 2 game director Joe Blackburn addressed it in a series of Twitter posts. Blackburn admitted it'll take time for the Destiny 2 team to adapt, but the studio is actively looking at ways to freshen up the experience starting with Season 20 and beyond. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League will have the titular squad go head-to-head with Batman, with the Caped Crusader voiced by none other than the late Kevin Conroy. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League will launch on May 26 for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X, as revealed by Game Awards 2022 host Jeff Keighley. Longtime Batman voice actor Kevin Conroy tragically passed away last month at the age of 66. Conroy was best known for voicing Batman in Batman, the animated series, a role that he reprised in the celebrated Batman Arkham games from Rocksteady Studios. Conroy's performance as Batman in the Batman Arkham games was acclaimed, but with Batman Arkham Knight seemingly closing the book on Batman's story. Many assumed that would be the last time Conroy would play the character in Rocksteady's Arkhamverse. However, in an emotional and unexpected announcement, it's been confirmed that Conroy will be playing the role of Batman one last time, voicing the character in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. In the new game, Batman and the other members of the Justice League have been brainwashed by Brainiac, and so Amanda Waller forms the titular Suicide Squad to take them out. In the new footage, players see that the Suicide Squad members have managed to successfully apprehend the Flash, though it's unclear exactly how they managed to do that. In any case, Flash loses a finger at the hands of Captain Boomerang, but he appears too beat up to do much about it. Luckily for the Flash, but unfortunately for the Suicide Squad, fellow Justice League member Batman shows up at the end of the trailer to fight the squad. This is the same Batman from the other Batman, Arkham games, but like the other Justice League members, he is under Brainiac's control. This means he's willing to kill, which makes Batman even more dangerous than he already was. Needless to say, the Suicide Squad are going to have their work cut out for them if they hope to stand a chance. Batman is showing pushing a detonator right as the trailer ends, so it seems fans will have to wait to play the game for themselves to see what happens next. Now that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has a solid release date, fans know when they'll get to play the game for themselves. It's been quite a while since Rocksteady released the open-world Batman Arkham Knight, but hopefully it will be worth the wait. Following its release date and other details leaking online, EA and Respawn Entertainment confirmed it would show off Star Wars Jedi Survivor gameplay at the Game Awards, and the franchise clearly showed up to deliver. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is easily one of the most anticipated 2023 titles, as the first game set a high bar for the evolving sub-franchise. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order solid lightsaber gameplay interwoven with that, and had a compelling and definitive Star Wars story to tell. Star Wars Jedi Survivor takes place 5 years after the original title, putting it in a similar place on the franchise timeline as the recent Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series. Not much has been confirmed, except that the Galactic Empire is doubling down on its hunt for Order 66 survivors, and Respawn has said that Kestis must do whatever it takes to stay alive. This gives the game a darker tone, and the gameplay emphasizes this too. The trailer shows Cal using a stormtrooper as a shield, riding a wild animal, throwing his lightsaber around, slowing time through the Force, quickly reflecting shots while running and wielding, even a lightsaber styled after Kylo Ren's very own. It's just a glimpse, mixed with some story, but it already shows how Respawn is aiming to improve the franchise. Of course, there is still plenty to be seen about the game over the next few months. With EA opting for shorter, more concrete marking windows for some IP, it stands to reason fans will see more and more about the game as it gets closer to release, something perhaps similar to its marketing for Need for Speed Unbound. But, for now, this will likely satisfy fans of the franchise. Star Wars Jedi Survivor debuted an exciting trailer, introducing the audience to a more experienced Cal, but also curiously going out of its way to show the former Padawan surrounded by a completely new cast of characters. The sequel to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Survivor seems to pivot away from the story it established at the end of the original game. This may not necessarily be a bad thing, but it's certainly been an unexpected turn, only further exacerbated by the fact that Star Wars fans have been speculating about the plot of Jedi Survivor ever since Jedi Fallen Order concluded. It's important to keep in mind that the absence of the Mantis and its crew in the new Jedi Survivor trailer may not automatically mean an overall absence from the story of Survivor. But Respawn Entertainment certainly wants its players to know that the tale of Cal Kestis in the intervening years between Order 66 and the Battle of Yavin 4 is expanding its scope. While the trailer sees the return of a familiar face in Cere Juanda, sporting a stylish new look as a Jedi Master in exile, the only companion that seemingly follows Cal on his new journey is the irreplaceable BD-1. Many fans were hoping that Jedi Survivor would feature dual protagonists, given the way Night Sister Merrin was introduced in the final hours of the first game. Thus far, there has been no sighting of Merrin or Grease, as Cal finds himself interacting with a new ally in Jedi Survivor called Bode Akuna. Grizzled and bearded, this is a Cal Kestis that has matured from the lessons he learned in Fallen Order. Though not officially confirmed, Jedi Survivor is implied to have a time skip, as a clean-shaven Cal is seen waking up the mysterious Jedi in the opening scene of the trailer before he transitions into his new look for the rest of his scenes. The identity of the Jedi remains a mystery, but his gilded attire implies that he may be from the High Republic era, and potentially the game's primary antagonist. The other important thing to take away from the trailer is that Respawn seems committed to taking Cal Kestis in a bold direction, as he transcends the trappings of his Padawan past and becomes a true weapon master of the Jedi. Whereas the first game introduced a single saber and double-bladed saber in terms of fighting styles, it seems that Jedi Survivor is taking it a step further by letting Cal dual-wield lightsabers, or even adopt Kylo Ren's iconic crossguard saber for a heavier two-handed stance. As exciting as the newcomers in Star Wars Jedi Survivor appear to be, there is a rancor in the room that needs to be addressed. Neither the teaser nor the trailer seem to show any sign of Grease or Night Sister Merrin, and with Cal seemingly piloting the Mantis all by his lonesome, the implications don't exactly appear favorable for Cal's old crew. If the theory of a time skip holds true, and especially when one considers that Jedi Survivor takes place 5 years after the end of Fallen Order, there is a possibility that Grease may have met his demise either prior to the start of the game, or during the first few hours of the sequel. Cal inheriting his ship, perhaps in the wake of freeing a Jedi that should have stayed imprisoned, would set the tone for the dark middle chapter that has become so quintessential to Star Wars. Night Sister Merrin, a self-proclaimed survivor, and certainly independent enough from the Mantis crew as a whole, may have parted ways with Cal in the years between to pursue her own adventures across the galaxy. As disappointing as that outcome might be to some Jedi Fallen Order fans, Merrin may yet show up in Jedi Survivor and help her old friend out in his time of need, potentially with new Night Sister skills to boot. With a rogue Jedi teaming up with bounty hunters against Cal, a nefarious Pauan senator scheming on Coruscant, and a new friend joining the fray, Jedi Survivor isn't interested in just being the second part of the first game, but in telling a story in its own right, even if it comes at the cost of the Mantis crew. Though it remains to be seen if Respawn Entertainment can strike gold a second time, the footage shown thus far evokes plenty of hope that Jedi Survivor can not only match the success of Fallen Order, but that it can even surpass it. Kestis whips out plenty of new moves that put Jedi Fallen Order's lightsaber combat to shame. It's a marked improvement, at least it would seem, over an already great system, making the wait for it seem all the longer. Not much of the story has been shown yet outside the Galactic Empire's continued hunt for Cal Kestis, and with EA's limited marketing approach for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, it's uncertain how much fans will see ahead of release. Fans will hopefully get plenty of new info before then, but poring over the new Star Wars Jedi Survivor trailer will be enough for now. And interestingly enough, Kylo Ren's influence cannot be ignored. Kylo Ren's birth in the Star Wars timeline obviously takes place long after Star Wars Jedi Survivor does, but since the prequel trilogy released first, his influence is palpable. Kylo Ren was the first Force user to ever wield a cross-guard lightsaber in the movies, while his first appearance in The Force Awakens shows off a dominating use of a new Force stasis ability. Both of these things interestingly appear in the new trailer. Cal Kestis uses Force stasis to slow time in Star Wars Jedi Survivor, effectively freezing an onslaught of blaster bolts and giving him the advantage against a couple of stormtroopers. Later on, Kestis is shown to look at a new lightsaber, one with a similar crossguard to Kylo Ren's. The trailer only shows Kestis wielding a single saber, dual-wielding two sabers, and connecting the two into a dual blade, when he throws it, similar to his lightsabers in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So it's uncertain if he'll use this or if it's just a tease. Kylo Ren's lightsaber was obviously red, while Kestis is notably blue. Notably, Kestis isn't the first Jedi since Kylo Ren's appearance to come across this design, as Ezra Bridger finds a green one in Star Wars Rebels. At the end of the day, these are obvious nods to Kylo Ren and nothing more, but that's to be expected with a franchise as grandiose as Star Wars. There's likely to be other Easter eggs and nods fans find, even if Star Wars Jedi Survivor falls earlier on the timeline, but that's what makes all Star Wars material feel connected. Taking place 5 years after Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Star Wars Jedi Survivor sees a more experienced Cal Kestis face off against the Empire once more, encountering old and new foes along the way. Over the last 5 years, it seems as though Cal has picked up some new tricks, which pave the way for a slew of exciting new game mechanics. After a brief introduction to the mysterious new, still unnamed character in the Bacta tank, players get their first glimpse at Star Wars Jedi Survivor's gameplay, and from the get-go, new mechanics are shown off. Cal can be seen impaling a Magna Guard, force-pushing a trio of Imperials, and lifting up several stormtroopers at once, the latter of which he couldn't do in the previous game. After a little dialogue exchange with Cal's former mentor Seer, another new gameplay mechanic can be seen. With Cal force pulling a heavy trooper to his side and using his laser turret to shoot the other troopers. This newly released Star Wars Jedi Survivor gameplay trailer also showcases some rideable mounts, which are brand new to the sequel. Cal can be seen befriending and mounting a feathered, two-legged beast, not too dissimilar from a tauntaun. On this creature, Cal uses his lightsaber to cut down a B-1 battle droid, confirming their existence in the game alongside the ability to attack while riding the mount. Straight after, Cal is shown holding onto the legs of a pterodactyl-like creature, using it to glide through the air. While this could just be a scripted set piece, the presence of mounts does imply that Star Wars Jedi Survivor might have more expansive, open-ended levels than Jedi Fallen Order, with mounts being needed to fast travel across greater distances. In the next sequence, Cal Kestis faces off against a bounty hunter duo, with the main aggressor using a mean-looking electro staff to push the Jedi to the ground. After getting up and brushing off the hit, Cal ignites his lightsaber once more and pulls another saber to his left hand, revealing the ability to dual-wield. One of the most requested features for the sequel, the ability to dual-wield lightsabers will presumably give way to even more combat variations. During a battle with a hulking Imperial robot, who looks a little like the Mandalorian's Dark Troopers, Cal can be seen performing one of the game's new combat finishers. In Jedi Fallen Order, once the player got an enemy to low enough heal, or they parried them perfectly, they could use a finishing move, where Cal would cinematically stab or slash through the opponent. It seems as though Jedi Survivor is following suit, showing Cal fling his lightsaber into the robot's legs, and bringing it back around to cut off its head. Towards the end of the gameplay trailer, Cal is helped onto a ledge by one of the game's new characters, Bode Kuna, a mercenary that seems to be helping Cal on his new mission. It also seems like Bode will assist in Jedi Survivor's gameplay too, with one sequence showing Cal impaling a scout trooper and letting Bode flip off his back to deliver a finishing kick. Cal's lightsaber throw ability seems to have gotten a big upgrade as well, with the player seemingly being able to attach both lightsabers together to widen the arc. Another new traversal mechanic is shown off soon after, with Cal using an ascension cable to zip up to a ledge. The final moments of the Star Wars Jedi Survivor gameplay trailer show Cal Kestis attaching a Kylo Ren-inspired cross-guard to his lightsaber, which apparently unlocks a new, more methodical combat stance. I like Fallen Order's Metroidvania level design, and I found it a fun way to progress through unique planets with Force abilities we would acquire throughout. However, Star Wars Jedi Survivor's mounts suggest this approach to level design has been re-evaluated. Cal Kestis can be seen gliding into an open landscape in Survivor, dangling from a winged creature. It is unclear whether this is a new method of fast travel, or if these winged creatures are perched in predetermined places and used to transition to other parts of the map. This particular shot does show that Cal is gliding into an area much larger in scope than players experienced in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And this addition alone would be fantastic for players to traverse tighter areas more efficiently. It is also unknown whether the entire landscape will be explorable, though that may be implied by this trailer. Open environments could help to make traversal more convenient or intuitive, but it would be nice to see Metroidvania elements still be included. Rather, the true emergence in navigation that Star Wars Jedi Survivor presents is a rideable mount that players control in this biome. Only quick glimpses of a mountable creature are provided in the Star Wars Jedi Survivor trailer, wherein Cal first has to befriend his mount. Cal rides the creature toward a lone battle droid standing in a stretch of shallow water and slashes at it with his lightsaber, confirming that there will be mounted combat as well. If fans adored Horizon's mounted combat, this one may appeal to them. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is not confirmed to be an open-world game, and likely still has a Metroidvania core. But mounts are a clear indication that at least one planet will have an openly explorable location. It would be great to see other mounts or light vehicles such as speeders available for players, and having unique mounts for particular planets would be a great way for Star Wars Jedi Survivor to improve diversity in its gameplay. It also looks like Star Wars Jedi Survivor may have NPC companions that aid Cal in battle, but there is still a lot to be revealed about its gameplay. I loved the first one and I'm anticipating this day one purchase. Earthblade, the next game Celeste developer Extremely OK Games, debuted gameplay during the Game Awards 2022. The 2D Exploration game has kept Celeste fans waiting since its announcement in April 2001 and EXOK has made the most of the time since. But while it's exciting to finally see Earthblade in motion, it seems that some extra development time is going to be necessary before EXOK can release the final product. The initial announcement of Earthblade revealed very little of the game, outside its genre and a promise of another Celeste-like pixel art world. Little more than teasers for Earthblade has been shared since, with just a GIF offering the only look at Earthblade in motion. Games take time to develop, however, and the team at EXOK was always going to ensure it only shared more regarding Earthblade when it was ready. It seems it's now ready. The debut gameplay trailer for Earthblade was shown during the Game Awards 2022. It opens with a mysterious, horned protagonist falling through a portal of some kind, where they're questioned by an NPC who says they must travel fate, too. The rest of the trailer is dedicated to a scrolling camera that shows the size of Earthblade's world, as well as the diverse flora and fauna waiting within. Quick sequences of combat are also shown, confirming that while Earthblade is certainly unique from Celeste, it still retains much of its predecessor's platforming roots. Perhaps the biggest surprise of the Earthblade trailer, however, is the release window it confirms at its end. Unfortunately, Earthblade will not be arriving in 2023 as many fans were hoping. Earthblade is confirmed to be planned for launch in 2024. That may be a longer wait than some hoped, but if that's what EXOK needs to complete the game, then fans are certain to be understanding. The initial look at Earthblade's gameplay should provide plenty for fans to pore through and speculate on, at least. It presents a truly massive world, all appearing to be interconnected and seamless. Whether it's the protagonist slashing attacks, double jump, or the gathering of what looks to be experience orbs, much of Earthblade remains to be detailed. While the Game Awards 2022 trailer revealed much of what the game will look like, Extremely OK Games' website does offer some additional context. The story of Earthblade follows Nevoa, an enigmatic child of fate who has returned to Earth after a long time away. The game is described as an explore-action platformer, where players will travel a ruined Earth to uncover its secrets and history. The trailer also shows that there will likely be a full cast of characters for the player to befriend or potentially face off against on their journey. Earthblade's world seems not quite fantasy, not quite science fiction, but a beautiful in-between, exemplified by its horned Earthling protagonist Nevoa. One of the biggest factors that made Celeste such an overnight success was the fluidity and dynamism of its movement mechanics. There are few games where simply navigating the environment is such an engrossing part of the experience. Celeste began as a humble game jam project in the Pico 8 game engine, a Lua-based microengine designed for producing retro-style experiences with a limited tool set. Even when playing the original game jam version of Celeste, it is clear that the refinement of player movement was a design priority. After spending so many years mastering the development of platforming mechanics, it makes sense that Earthblade would attempt to broaden other aspects of design rather than discard the team's previous efforts entirely. Celeste itself was in many ways an expansion of Matty Thorson's previous work on the Towerfall series, taking the fast-paced 2D platforming combat of that series and refining the play experience down to an atmospheric, story-driven platformer. With Earthblade, the story emphasis seems to have remained, but with the reintroduction of combat and an increased focus on world scale. Celeste did offer the opportunity to explore open-endedly, but the experience was always somewhat limited. The player had a limited set of rooms they could explore in a given area, generally for the purpose of hiding secrets and collectibles. The narrative itself though was very linear, with the player always heading towards a singular destination to find the next story beat. The most prominent aspects of Earthblade's trailer are definitely the scale of its world, and the presence of enemy creatures the player will face as they explore that world. Celeste did not have enemies in the traditional sense, though there was a variety of moving obstacles the player had to work around. This represents a departure between the two games that will likely have major implications on how players navigate environments. The challenging platforming of Celeste may be toned down somewhat to accommodate combat, or the game could explore an even more challenging difficulty ceiling. The sweeping shots of large landscapes full of animals and greenery also evoke a kind of post-apocalypse, where a magical kind of nature has begun to reclaim the world. Some of Celeste's best exploration moments came when players were able to explore larger open areas with a variety of puzzles and micro-challenges. It will be interesting to see if Earthblade takes a similar approach to Celeste's world design and builds its open world by creating a branching set of challenges from a central hub, or if the game plans to explore a less linear level design philosophy. Even as the game remains far away, with over a year left in development, this trailer is likely just the beginning of the reveals about the game. As the release date of Earthblade draws closer, there is sure to be much more to uncover about its fascinating world. Dune Awakening is an open-world MMO that takes players to the sands of Arrakis, and the Game Awards show has just premiered a first glimpse into its breathtaking in-game footage. Developed by Funcom, known for delivering online experiences such as Conan Exiles and The Secret World, Dune Awakening represents the company's take on Frank Herbert's iconic universe. The game was initially announced in August 2022, but up until the Game Awards not much was known about the project beyond its basic concept. Dune Awakening is a survival game, first and foremost, as it marries the creativity and grittiness of its genre with the sprawling scale and social aspects of an MMO. Funcom's foray into survival games through Conan Exiles has no doubt made the developers an ideal candidate in adapting the harsh yet beautiful landscape of Arrakis. In terms of its identity, Dune Awakening is lifting visual elements straight from Denis Villeneuve's Dune adaptation, establishing it as a natural companion piece to the film. Dune fans can watch the new trailer for as many times as they like, as the entire 80-second teaser is a true visual marvel, highlighting the cities, settlements, and dunes of Arrakis. As the voiceover in the trailer would imply, Dune Awakening puts thousands of players free to roam the unmapped regions and vast deserts of a seamless Arrakis, filled to the brim with unique hazards such as its legendary sandworms and the all-important spice they protect. Funcom will adapt plenty of staples from Frank Herbert's universe directly into Dune Awakening's gameplay, such as allowing players to deploy their own spice harvesters while mixing it with standard survival features like base construction, climbing through the ranks, as well as engaging in fast-paced vehicular combat, on both land and air, against other players and NPCs. This ambitious scope promises a virtual Arrakis that players can make their own, and the MMO format of Dune Awakening ensures that content must flow, guaranteeing that the game will always have something new to offer. Though it's too early to tell when players might get their hands on Dune Awakening, it's becoming readily apparent that the modern media landscape of Dune promises far more than just Denis Villeneuve's sequel, as Dune: The Sisterhood has begun production for HBO Max as well. Players can expect to find out more about Dune Awakening and its gameplay features in the months to come, after which the game will officially enter its beta testing phase. Kojima Productions reveals Death Stranding 2 in an incredible trailer that gives a cinematic view of what players can expect from the upcoming title. The trailer was quickly followed by a few words from developer Hideo Kojima, who in classic style didn't give too much insight as to what Death Stranding 2 would actually be about. However, the story will seemingly be less prophetic about the isolated society that would eventually spread from the game world of the original Death Stranding and into the real world a few months later. In the trailer, we are shown a short clip of Léa Seydoux's fragile cradling a toddler before the quiet moment immediately erupts into an action-packed chase across the isolated wasteland. After some strange images, such as some monstrous tentacles crawling around inside of BB's old carrying case, Fragile is then joined by Norman Reedus' Sam Porter Bridges. Interestingly, both characters appear vastly different in Death Stranding 2 than they did in the original, with Sam having long, gray hair and Fragile no longer being affected by her time out in the timefall. After the initial trailer, Hideo Kojima also made a short appearance to talk about development of Death Stranding 2, specifically focusing on the writing process of the new story. According to Kojima, the story had already been started when the original Death Stranding launched. However, the developer scrapped and rewrote the story after the isolation from the COVID outbreak following that game's release. Aside from that slight insight, Kojima also encouraged fans to take a closer look at the newly released trailer in order to start piecing together what the next game in the series has in store. Considering the story of the original Death Stranding as well as the vague and obscured lead up to its release, what little has been shown so far likely isn't all there will be to see. Similarly, the announcement of Death Stranding 2 doesn't necessarily discount speculation from fans for the rumored Project Overdose from Kojima Productions, as Kojima did claim that the developer is working on multiple projects right now. So far, this trailer will certainly give fans plenty to speculate on, from the return of Higgs to the reveals of new technologies that hadn't appeared in the original title. While settings are important in most games, it is the main attraction in Death Stranding. Although there are enemies to contend with, including terrorists and mules, most of a player's time will be spent attempting to navigate the dystopian terrain without damaging their precious cargo. Sloping mountains can lead to Sam bridges tumbling over, and rivers are impassable obstacles until players find the right tools. Death Stranding is set in a future version of the USA that has been torn apart by strange creatures called beached things. As the first in the newly dubbed Strand genre, the first Death Stranding saw players embark on a journey across a post-apocalyptic United States to connect remaining settlements to the Chiral Network, a communications network intended to establish links between isolated colonies. The reveal trailer for Death Stranding 2 ends with the tagline, "Should we have connected?" which would seem to directly contradict the themes of the first game. As gameplay has yet to be shown, it's unclear how Death Stranding 2 will evolve the formula established by its predecessor. Those familiar with Kojima's previous work on the Metal Gear series can expect to see unique additions to the gameplay that are sure to tie into the "Should we have connected?" tagline. With the goal of connecting the remaining colonies called knots of the new United Cities of America to the Chiral Network, Sam Bridges sets off with his BB, Lou, taking on requests for cargo delivery along the way. As players attempt to traverse a variety of harsh environments, they can construct tools such as ladders, bridges, and even vehicles to help make the journey easier. Part of what made this a Strand game was the online functionality that allowed players to leave behind equipment for others to use on their journey or recover lost cargo from players in their own game. All of these elements combine to create a theme around bringing people together to achieve a common goal. Connecting knots to the Chiral Network was supposed to help in rebuilding the country, and giving players the ability to asynchronously support each other on their individual journeys supported the message that one was not alone in the desolate, timefall-covered wasteland. Now that Death Stranding 2 questions whether this connection was a good thing, it makes the first game feel some way thematically. This feeling may dissipate once players get the chance to dive into this new story, but it takes some of the wind out of the game's sails right from its initial reveal. Hideo Kojima is no stranger to dramatic twists across his myriad of critically acclaimed titles. With how surprising the implications of this new tagline are for the first game's plot, it will be interesting to see how Death Stranding 2 spins this theme to fit its own story. Perhaps the Chiral Network was vulnerable to infiltration and has been corrupted as a result. This would be a cause for severing the connection so that other knots are not corrupted by a potentially catastrophic virus. As the world of Death Stranding teeters on the edge of another extinction event, it is very possible Sam will be called on again to prevent a cataclysmic outcome. It's important to note that the game is still under a working title, meaning the final name could change to better suit the themes of its narrative. If the game really is going to focus on breaking the newly established connections of the Chiral Network, perhaps a title like Death Severed would be more appropriate. The return of the villain Higgs could also have implications for the game's theme as he was left stranded on the beach at the end of the last game. Perhaps his return could signal that the game will be titled Death Survived and follow the theme of survival during an ongoing extinction event. Despite the American setting, keen-eyed players will have noticed that the landscapes are not what one would expect from the country. Players are met with black soil, rugged terrain, and moss-covered mountains. This kind of scenery is more akin to what one would expect from Iceland. It has had its landscape uniquely shaped by millennia of volcanic activity and geological forces that have created steep mountains and deep fjords. This comes as no surprise, as Kojima's travels have taken him to the tiny European country, which is also where he discovered the music of Low Roar. During the trailer shown at 2022's The Game Awards, gamers got a glimpse of Death Stranding sequel which Kojima has been hinting at for a while. It sees the return of characters like Sam and Fragile, though it appears that it is prepping to tell yet another mind-twisting story. Although not many details are revealed, players do see Fragile attempting to protect a baby and a BB pod with scary tentacles within it. The upcoming game appears to embrace a slightly new setting. Unlike the first game which had Sam outdoors at almost all times, Death Stranding 2 seems to embrace indoor environments much more. Fragile is seen sneaking down corridors and through vents, not unlike Snake in Metal Gear Solid. This is a direction that franchise seems to have been going in since the release of Death Stranding Director's Cut, which also features more indoor environments. During the brief glimpses of the outdoors, there is no longer black sand and moss-covered terrain. Instead, the environment appears rockier and desert-like. With the game taking place after the first title, in a world that has seemingly connected more, it will be interesting to see how it introduces fresh traversal challenges. The new game isn't entirely void of large bodies of water, however. The trailer reveals a large device emerging from what appears to be a lake. The device may be a vehicle of some sort, as Fragile tells Sam that it's time to start a new journey as it arises. Weeks prior, Kojima fans had speculated that the game may feature aquatic environments. This was mostly fueled by leaks claiming that Death Stranding 2 is being worked on under the codename Project Ocean. Having water as a new type of terrain to navigate would certainly bring new elements to gameplay and make the sequel feel fresh. Nevertheless, with no gameplay shown yet, it is difficult to determine precisely what Kojima has in store for gamers. The reveal of the long-rumored Death Stranding 2 at the Game Awards 2022 was punctuated by the confirmation of several returning cast members. Although the trailer focused heavily on Léa Seydoux' Fragile, it also gave fans a brief glimpse at new looks for Norman Reedus' Sam Bridges and Troy Baker's Higgs. What caught particular attention was Sam's apparent age difference between Death Stranding and its sequel, leading many to speculate why he appears so much older than the rest of the cast. Additional cast members listed in the credits but missing from the trailer include Elle Fanning and Shioli Katsuna. Although Hideo Kojima had teased these actors' involvement in the project on Twitter, their role in the game has yet to be revealed. As is typical of Kojima, the cryptic nature of this trailer leaves a lot of room for speculation on many fronts. However, the reasoning behind Sam's drastic age difference could have a few causes leading into Death Stranding 2. Although it is possible that Sam aged due to the length of time between Death Stranding and its sequel, that seems like too simple of an answer for Kojima Productions. Fans of Kojima's Metal Gear series will be familiar with the way in which Snake suffered accelerated aging as a clone. Death Stranding has its own in-universe cause of accelerated aging in the form of the timefall phenomenon, which is a mysterious rain that causes anything it comes into contact to rapidly progress through time. Timefall has the power to decay machinery, kill plant life, and even age humans who are unfortunate enough to come into contact. Death Stranding already has one character who suffered the effects of timefall. Fragile, who had timefall affect every part of her body except her face while attempting to prevent Higgs from destroying South Knot City. Given Fragile's prominence in this reveal trailer, it is possible timefall could play a larger role in the overall story of Death Stranding 2. Perhaps Sam's overexposure to the phenomenon during the events of the first game caused him to age more quickly than he would have otherwise. Much like Metal Gear's Snake, Sam's existence in the world of Death Stranding is not natural. He was one of the original Bridge babies who died after his father, Cliff, attempted to rescue him from Bridge's experiments. Sam was brought back to life on the beach by Amelie, making him a repatriate, someone who is able to avoid death by navigating their way back from the beach. With the ability to defy death, the cost of this repatriation may be accelerated aging. This would explain Sam's age discrepancy while also adding to the lore of repatriation and the beach, two of Death Stranding's most mysterious inclusions. Sam also suffers from dooms, a condition associated with a connection to the world of the dead. Although not a direct result of being a repatriate, his rapid aging coming from dooms could be another viable explanation. It is possible that the stress inflicted by the nightmares Dooms creates could have caused him to look older than he actually is, much like the ways in which high levels of stress in the real world can result in a similar appearance. Whatever the cause may be, it is certain to be an important part of Death Stranding 2. The theory that Kojima may be unveiling a Death Stranding sequel has been floating around for a while. Those rumors have, in part, been fueled by Kojima, who has been consistently dropping cryptic hints at public events and on his Twitter account. This is nothing new for Kojima, as he is quite fond of trolling his fans and always keeping them guessing. This time around, fans did a fairly good job of predicting his next move. As Kojima has previously hinted, the game will feature actresses Elle Fanning and Shioli Kitsuna. Norman Reedus makes a return as Sam, though he appears to be much older, and Léa Seydoux reclaims her role as Fragile. However, this time around, it seems that she will be taking a far more central role, and gamers may learn a bit more about her backstory. Like its predecessor, Death Stranding 2 will be making use of the Decima engine, which has also been responsible for Guerrilla Games' Horizon franchise. The fact that the footage has been captured on PS5 suggests that the upcoming game will be a console exclusive, though this has yet to be confirmed. Gamers witnessed the return of stealth in indoor environments in Death Stranding 2's enigmatic trailer, which is something the series has been moving towards since Death Stranding Director's Cut. The focus on Fragile also suggests that the game may take a page from Metal Gear Solid 2 and switch up the protagonist. And there's obviously the huge mech that basically has Metal Gear stamped on its forehead. The Death Stranding 2 trailer shown at the Game Awards was very short, but already fans have been dissecting for as many details as possible. It begins with Fragile rescuing a baby from what seems to be some kind of nursery. It is clear that she is not meant to be there, and that she is in a very dangerous situation. As she makes her escape, she crawls through narrow passageways and avoids the beam coming from flashlights around a corner. Her escape ends with her climbing aboard a trike and speeding away. For fans of Kojima, the references to Metal Gear Solid are hard to ignore. Fragile appears to be on a stealth mission not unlike the one Snake navigates in Metal Gear Solid games. It is particularly notable because Death Stranding is a game that typically has players outdoors. However, the trailer suggests that the upcoming game may feature more indoor stealth elements, much like Metal Gear Solid games before the Phantom Pain. Kojima has a history of setting up expectations for his fans only to swiftly subvert them. One of the most famous incidents of this occurred with the marketing of Metal Gear Solid 2. In the lead up to the game, the marketing led gamers to believe that they would be taking control of Snake once again. Surprisingly, that was not the case, and the game's protagonist is instead Raiden. Metal Gear Solid 2's marketing stunt isn't the kind of thing that can be effectively pulled off twice. However, the trailer for Death Stranding sequel suggests that much like the 2001 game, there may be a protagonist swap in store. Rather than focus on Sam, the trailer centers on Fragile and her escapades. It appears that gamers will be discovering more about her backstory, and the focus on her stealth movements and use of the trike is hard not to interpret as sneak peeks into the gameplay that fans can expect. Evidence for a possible switcheroo also comes from the fact that Sam Bridges looks much older in the trailer. It may be a sign that the torch is about to get passed to Fragile. The announcement of the upcoming game gives plenty for Kojima fans to look forward to. To find out more about the upcoming game, gamers will likely have to keep an eye on his Twitter and an ear to his podcast titled Brain Structure. In addition to Death Stranding 2, gamers can also expect an Xbox game from Kojima. According to rumors, the game is titled Overdose, and it is a horror title that will feature Margaret Qualley. Ascendant Studios has announced a new single-player, first-person shooter called Immortals of Aveum, which will release on next-gen consoles and PC sometime in 2023. The indie studio is focused on creating AAA titles and was founded in 2018 by Brett Robbins, who served as creative director of 2008's Dead Space. The company is the new home of a number of industry veterans who have worked on other highly successful and great like BioShock, Call of Duty, and Halo. So far, Ascendant Studios has been busy assembling a team to work on its debut title, which was announced with an official teaser trailer at the Game Awards 2022 on December 8. According to Ascendant, Immortals of Aveum will deliver a visceral, cinematic campaign experience. More precisely, the single-player, first-person shooter will take place in a fantasy universe rife with conflict and on the verge of oblivion. From the brief trailer shown at the Game Awards, not much can be discerned about the story, other than that there is some sort of war going on and the combatants use powerful magic in addition to more standard weaponry like warhammers. The game is being developed with the support of EA Originals, an initiative created by industry giant Electronic Arts to help smaller studios bring their games to the public. The company provides marketing, publishing, and the security of funding so that indie developers can focus on making games. Some of the titles that have come out of the collaboration are the two Unravel games, It Takes Two, Fae, and Lost in Random. So Immortals of Aveum will be joining a solid lineup of award-winning indie titles by teaming up with EA Originals. The game is slated for a 2023 launch, though a precise release date has not yet been announced, and will be available on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles. Robbins has expressed his enthusiasm about the partnership, stating that EA's expertise and resources will allow the team at Ascendant to make a AAA caliber game. Bandai Namco showed off a brand new trailer for the upcoming Tekken 8, focused on the story and characters. With the conclusion of Tekken 7 support last year, the fighting game developer teased a brand new entry in the series. While fans got a brief teaser at EVO, the official announcement of Tekken 8 wasn't until September's PlayStation State of Play event, which gave a brief look at the gameplay, running on next-generation hardware to boot. A week before the show, however, Bandai Namco teased Tekken 8 would make an appearance at the Game Awards, asking fans to tune in. Series producer Katsuhiro Harada also got in on the fun, posting a short video to Twitter about the game's appearance and asked fans to similarly tune into the event. This newest trailer has just dropped, with it giving some insight into what to expect from the next Tekken entry in terms of its story. This trailer for Tekken 8 kicks off with the protagonist, Jin Kazama, the son of Kazuya Mishima, having a flashback to his childhood. From there, he remembers the happier times with his mother, before cutting to the present with his arch-nemesis dad. The trailer then shows chaos ensuing within the city, all into the lead-up of Jin facing off against his father. The trailer also showcases other members of Tekken 8's roster, with returning fan-favorite characters like King, Marshall, and Paul partaking in the action very briefly. Each character also has a distinctive new look compared to past games, rendered in Unreal Engine 5, which got a lot of praise from the community. However, the big selling point of this trailer is the destined showdown between father and son, with a big battle in both the streets and throughout the skies. While Jin is getting beat down, he can only think about his mother, Jun Kazama, and how he's failing in the fight against his father. The last shot of the trailer, however, is a big surprise to longtime fans, where Jun Kazama appears to support Jin, complete with a brand new model and look, as she imbues Jin with an unknown power. While she is believed to have been killed during the events of the mainline games, her official status is unknown and has made appearances in non-canonical games such as Tekken Tag Tournament 2. It is looking like Tekken 8 is going to clear up some of these dangling plot threads, as well as give the spotlight to Jin in a big way. Tekken 8's director, Katsuhiro Harada, states that Bandai Namco's upcoming 8th entry will have gameplay that is more aggressive than the previous game. This interview with Harada had him break down several aspects of the trailer that was showcased, including some of the details about the gameplay that wasn't explicitly featured. For example, with Tekken 8 being built on Unreal Engine 5 for next-gen hardware, every single character had been redesigned for the game, including the models and bone structure. The new engine also allowed for a greater polish for the visuals in terms of lighting and setting the atmosphere for the gameplay. One of the biggest changes to how Tekken 8 will compare to 7 is its gameplay, which Harada describes as being more aggressive. Harada states that the concept of the new system is the term of aggression, which came about from how Tekken 8 should feel both good to play and good to watch. He gives a specific example where the player who is on the offensive should be enjoying themselves and feel like if they've got the advantage, they should have a better chance of winning. This is emphasized with the game's new Heat system, which was demonstrated in the recent trailer itself, with more details of this system and how it affects gameplay being given next year. According to Harada, much of Tekken 8's design was influenced by both the reception of Tekken 7 and the esports competitive scene. He reiterates that fighting games have to both feel good to watch and play, which helps bring in more people. Another example is given during high-level play. Gamers who have similar experience levels won't typically go on the offensive. Harada wanted to motivate Tekken 8 players to be on the offensive more and try to create openings on their opponents. This change won't just benefit those who are spectating or playing competitively, but making the overall experience satisfying for any player whether they are squaring off against a CPU or human opponent. Details like stage destruction, cinematic flourishes, characters reacting to hits, and more help emphasize Tekken 8's philosophy, according to Harada. The Tekken series producer Katsuhiro Harada announces that Tekken 7 has recently crossed a brand new impressive sales milestone. The Tekken series has been one of the popular fighting game properties in the past decade, with the 7th entry in the series being a massive success in the competitive fighting game space. Lauded for its intricate mechanics and roster, it received a lot of post-launch support and DLC. This includes 4 seasons of DLC for Tekken 7, including a variety of guest fighters like Noctis from Final Fantasy XV, Geese Howard from Fatal Fury, and even Negan from The Walking Dead. This massive success for Tekken 7 was reflected in the game sales, which are higher than any other previous entry. The previous recorded sales milestone for Tekken 7 was 8 million copies sold, which was after the release of the new definitive and originals digital editions of the game were listed for sale. Now the series has crossed yet another threshold, not only making it one of the best-selling entries in the franchise, but also one of the best-selling fighting games of all time. This Tekken 7 milestone was announced on Harada's Twitter account, where he states that the game has managed to sell over 10 million copies. This also means that the entire Tekken series has sold over 54 million copies, and he thanked the fans for their long-standing support. A piece of celebratory art was also posted to his account, which showed off the full roster. This makes Tekken 7 the 6th best-selling fighting game of all time, sitting comfortably among some of the other heavy hitters like Street Fighter II. The current crown holder of this sales milestone is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, with 29.53 million units sold, while Street Fighter II is at 15.5 million units. The other games in this top 5 include Mortal Kombat 11, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and Mortal Kombat 10. With support for Tekken 7 having run its course, Bandai Namco is currently working on the next numbered mainline entry. After years of secrecy surrounding the development of the eagerly anticipated title, Blizzard has finally revealed a June 6, 2023 release date for Diablo IV along with a breakdown of the bonuses available for those who pre-order the game. Anticipation for the latest entry in the beloved franchise reached fever pitch recently when Blizzard released videos showing off Diablo IV's character creator, giving gamers their first glimpse at the customization options in the new game. First announced at BlizzCon 2019, Diablo IV is the latest entry in the long-running franchise that began with 1997's PC action RPG Diablo. Following the critical and commercial success of the first 2 Diablo titles, the franchise fell on hard times as the series struggled to maintain its identity. Though generally well-reviewed, 2012's Diablo III faced criticism from some gamers for adopting an aesthetic highly influenced by World of Warcraft, while the mobile game Diablo Immortal was famously booed by the attendees of BlizzCon upon its premiere. Following reports of Diablo IV's troubled development from current and former Blizzard employees, some fans had expressed doubts that the troubled franchise could be salvaged. In a new cinematic trailer that premiered at the Game Awards, Diablo fans were given a glimpse of an epic battle between 2 of the key figures in Diablo IV's lore. The trailer opens with a priestess chanting while walking barefoot over scorching coals, flanked on all sides by soldiers in full battle armor. An otherworldly light begins to wash over the amassed soldiers before the camera cuts back to show Inarius, Archangel of the High Heavens, hovering over the gathered forces. As the priestess delivers a rousing speech to the armored warriors, the forces of hell rush forward towards the soldiers. With the battle raging below, Inarius spies his former lover and mother of the Nephilim, Lilith, in the distance. Flying towards her in a rage, the trailer closes as Inarius' spear is hurled towards Lilith and the release date is revealed. Gamers ready to battle the forces of darkness after the stirring trailer will be able to grab a variety of pre-order bonuses, with open beta access being offered to purchasers of the Standard, Digital Deluxe, and Ultimate editions of the game. In addition to extra in-game and cosmetic items, gamers who buy the Digital Deluxe and Ultimate Editions will also have up to 4 days of early access to Diablo IV's launch. According to a recent interview featuring game director Joe Shelley and general manager Rod Ferguson, this is a story that Diablo IV players are obligated to only finish once. Diablo IV will feature a campaign skip for players wanting to push straight to the endgame on their alt characters, further legitimizing the popularity of adventure mode from Reaper of Souls. If the open world in Diablo IV is reminiscent of adventure mode, this is by design, as the developers at Blizzard Entertainment were heavily influenced by some parts of all previous Diablo games. In addition to its cinematic campaign, the open world in Diablo IV has been built to support world bosses, player versus player combat, randomized dungeons, and more. Players will be able to traverse its vastness with the introduction of mounts in Diablo IV, and exploration will play a crucial role in power progression, with the added benefit that these bonuses earned through the renown system will be tied to a player's Diablo IV account rather than the character who earned them. No matter where Diablo IV players come from or what their platform of choice is. Blizzard has announced in a press release that the next installment of the franchise will feature cross-platform play and no region lock, allowing friends to enjoy the game together with no restrictions. Diablo IV has received its official ESRB rating ahead of the game's 2023 release window. The popular hack-and-slash franchise is known for its brutal violence and ample amounts of blood and gore, and the ratings have confirmed the presence of all three of these key elements in one fell swoop, as well as a few additional tidbits of information. As the early previews for Diablo IV have previously suggested, the ESRB has now confirmed that the game will be an appropriately violent ordeal in all the ways that matter. Diablo IV has received its official mature 17+ rating from the ESRB thanks to its intense violence, which includes various levels of dismemberment and mutilation, ample amounts of blood and gore, and a variety of creative ways to destroy entire hordes of demonic adversaries in one fell swoop. Players can expect plenty of blood spatter in and out of combat, and the level design is now confirmed to be closer to what Diablo II featured back in the day, with mutilated bodies on spikes and torsos with exposed entrails/viscera aplenty. The ESRB's description also verifies that Diablo IV will have various types of in-game purchases. With Diablo IV's official release date confirmed as well, franchise fans can seemingly rest assured knowing that Blizzard has taken Diablo III feedback to heart and gone back to the series' dark and dreary roots. The matter of in-game purchases, however, may be problematic from some players' perspectives. It's been known for some time now that Blizzard aims to make Diablo IV a live service game, but the specifics haven't been discussed in great detail. Broadly speaking, the fact is that Diablo Immortals' predatory microtransactions earned Activision Blizzard huge amounts of money. Depending on how the developer and the publisher leverage Diablo IV's in-game purchase features and live service elements, the end result may be equally expensive when all is said and done. Featuring an art style that harkens back to the series' roots, a powerful new character customization system, and deeper exploration of the franchise's dark, demonic lore. Diablo IV looks set to breathe new life into the series when the game launches in 2023. The Game Awards featured plenty of exciting announcements, and Remnant II was among the new games revealed at the event. Remnant II is a sequel to Remnant from the Ashes, an action-adventure shooter that was originally released in 2019. The game ended up being a sales success, as it has sold over 3 million copies as of December 2021. Players can choose from a few different classes and weapons in Remnant from the Ashes, with each focusing on a different gameplay style. Users can then upgrade their weapons and armor before heading out into the dangerous world and facing all sorts of monsters. While Remnant can be played solo, it has a bigger emphasis on co-op, as users must work together to defeat the various challenging bosses that are spread across the world. Now, developer Gunfire Games has announced its full sequel titled Remnant II alongside an exciting new trailer. The announcement trailer for Remnant II consists of various gameplay snippets that introduce the enemies, bosses, and levels in the game. It shows the sheer variety of foes players will be facing throughout their playthroughs, and the boss fights look similarly exciting. It also seems like Remnant II will feature a vast number of locations for gamers to explore. The trailer ends with footage of what looks to be a major story boss, and the description confirms a 2023 release window. Fans should note that Remnant 2 will only be available on PC and current-gen consoles, so it will apparently not release on PS4 or Xbox One. Remnant 2 offers branching quest lines, several crafting options, and a big focus on loot as players face off against hordes of enemies in dynamically generated levels. Overall, it looks like Remnant 2 follows the same blueprint as Remnant from the Ashes instead of taking the sequel in a completely different direction. Remnant from the Ashes received a free next-gen upgrade for PS5 and Xbox Series X, giving users a choice between 4K resolution at 30 FPS and 60 FPS gameplay. The Game Awards took place on December 8th, and fans were given a first look at the brand new game Transformers Reactivate. The trailer offered a glimpse of the high-octane action they can expect from the upcoming Transformers game, and it looks like it's going to be an adrenaline-pumping thrill ride. The Transformers games are typically action-adventure titles, with players taking control of the Autobots or Decepticons in their fight against each other. In addition to the single-player campaign mode, many of the games also feature multiplayer modes, allowing players to battle it out against each other as their favorite Transformers characters. However, from the information revealed during the Game Awards, it appears that Transformers Reactivate will be different from its predecessors in many ways. Transformers Reactivate is a 1-to-4 player online action game and is being developed and published by Splash Damage, which is known for its expertise in developing the multiplayer modes of Gears 5 and Batman Arkham Origins. The trailer opens with a group of Resistance members trying to reactivate a Transformer, but that imagery is alternated with horrific footage of aliens invading the Earth. Panicked people trying to fight these unknown creatures, and the planet seems on the verge of destruction and in complete control of the invading creatures. The trailer then shows an intense battle scene between Autobots and invaders. It appears that Ironhide and Ratchet are the two Autobots fighting, while the third is difficult to identify. It has also been announced that in Transformers Reactivate, Autobots and Decepticons will band together to fight against this massive alien invasion of Earth. This invasion is said to be led by a powerful new enemy, and the Autobots and Decepticons will have to put aside their differences if they want to stand a chance against this new threat. This is a huge change from the previous games, where the two groups were always at war with each other. Transformers Reactivate is being created in collaboration with Hasbro and is expected to enter its first beta test sometime in 2023. Perhaps to coincide with the launch of the action film Transformers Rise of the Beasts, though that exact date hasn't yet been announced. Splash Damage confirms it has acquired Battalion 1944 developer Bulkhead Interactive, its collaborator for Transformers Reactivate. It has been a very big week for Splash Damage. The team responsible for Dirty Bomb, Gears Tactics, and Wolfenstein Enemy Territory announced its new project, Transformers Reactivate, during the Game Awards 2022. But Splash Damage hasn't made Transformers Reactivate alone, and it's now acquiring the team it's been working with. Debuting all the way back in 1984, the Transformers franchise has managed to transcend multiple generations, with its vast line of transforming toys, big-budget movies, and family-friendly animated shows keeping it relevant for almost 4 decades. Over the last 20 years or so, the Transformers franchise has also found its way into the gaming space, and it's been a while since a big-budget Transformers game released. While the announcement alone is enough to get Transformers fans incredibly excited, it's best to keep those expectations in check, at least until fans have seen a little more from the game. Video game trailers aren't often the most honest form of marketing. While gameplay trailers tend to be fairly trusted, with mechanics being fully on show and the game being truly representative of the final product, cinematic trailers aren't as appreciated. Though cinematic trailers are the common way to announce a game and build hype for it, they've fallen out of fashion in recent years. Mostly due to their inability to really capture what the game will end up looking and playing like upon its eventual release. It's been a long time since a big-budget Transformers game came out. While mobile Transformers games and low-budget beat 'em ups have continued to release consistently over the last few years, Transformers fans are desperate for a return to the days of big-budget, high-quality titles like Transformers War for Cybertron and its sequel Fall of Cybertron. So, naturally, the announcement of a seemingly big Transformers game, and at the Game Awards no less, has already caused a big stir in the Transformers fanbase. But it's important that fans take a step back and temper their expectations. The announcement trailer for Transformers Reactivate was a cinematic one, using solely CG to convey the general premise of the game. Right now, fans know absolutely nothing about this game's actual gameplay, aside from the fact it'll be an online action game. Though the trailer had some impressive, authentic-looking visuals, it doesn't necessarily give a clear indication of what the game will actually look like, and fans should avoid getting too hyped too early. That being said, Splash Damage is a fairly reliable developer. For the last 20 years, Splash Damage worked alongside some of the industry's most talented developers to co-produce some beloved titles, such as Batman Arkham Origins. Since 2015, Splash Damage has worked closely with Xbox as the coalition to help develop the latest Gears of War titles, proving that it has quite a bit of experience in the online third-person shooter market. So, if Transformers Reactivate follows a similar gameplay structure to Gears, then fans can feel a little more justified about getting hyped for the game so early on. Hopefully Splash Damage will be able to harken back to the golden age of big-budget Transformers games while pushing the franchise into new, exciting territory. The developer of Life is Strange and Vampire announces that Banishers Ghosts of New Eden is its next project during the Game Awards 2022. This year's awards show was packed full of major announcements, with Banishers Ghosts of New Eden one of the strangest of the night. Banishers Ghosts of New Eden is confirmed to be an action RPG, and as even the name implies, there appears to be a clear influence from The Witcher in the upcoming game. Don't Nod is perhaps best known for its actionless narrative adventure games. Life is Strange, Tell Me Why, and most recently Twin Mirror stand out as perhaps its most notable accomplishments. But Don't Nod also has a long history of branching into action-based experiences. Its first game, Remember Me, helped establish the studio, and Vampire's supernatural combat endeared it to its audience. Now Don't Nod is once again partnering with Focus Home Entertainment for its next action RPG experiment. Banishers Ghosts of New Eden is about two ghost hunters, who also happen to be lovers. The problem is that only one of them appears to be alive. As such, Red Mac Wraith continues the work of banishing tormented souls with partner Antia Duarte's supernatural support, as they search for a way to bring Antia back. The result is an adventure full of sword fighting and magic, as well as heartfelt storytelling intermixed with difficult decisions. Those decisions will also serve a major role mechanically in Banishers Ghosts of New Eden. According to early details about the action RPG, depending on what challenging decisions players make, the story of Banishers Ghosts of New Eden can change dramatically. The example provided is having to choose between Red Mac Wraith's ghost hunting vow and helping Antia. In this regard, it appears Don't Nod is pulling on its Life is Strange experience for shifting narratives. Despite the surprise announcement at the Game Awards, it seems Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden isn't too far off. Focus Home Entertainment says that Banishers can be expected in 2023. It'll be available on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S, leaving the past generation of consoles behind. Expect further updates in 2023 for what will likely be a release in the second half of the year. Don't Nod's projects in the past have struggled to bridge the divide between indie/AA projects and the quality of a AAA release. For what it's worth, the Banishers Ghosts of New Eden trailer makes it look like Don't Nod's highest quality game yet. Perhaps that's a level of expectation Don't Nod wants for itself now. Hopefully, Banishers Ghosts of New Eden can deliver. At the Game Awards 2022, a new trailer for The Lords of the Fallen was shown, revealing the two monster-filled worlds the game takes place in. The title, which was originally believed to be Lords of the Fallen 2, was formally announced at Gamescom Opening Night Live 2022 with the updated name The Lords of the Fallen. The original Lords of the Fallen was released in 2014 as one of the first prominent games in the Souls-like genre to not be developed by From Software. While the game's developer Deck 13 went on to make the Surge series, publisher CI Games would begin looking for another studio to make a sequel to Lords of the Fallen in 2015. Eventually assigning the project to its own subsidiary studio Hexworks. Little information on the game would surface until its formal announcement at Gamescom 2022. Viewers of the Game Awards 2022 were given a new look at the Lords of the Fallen with the premiere of a new gameplay trailer. Captured in-game, this trailer gives hints about the game's setting of two different worlds, which were viewable to the protagonist through a lamp. Various enemies are given the spotlight, including spectral horrors, multi-limbed monsters, and boss-like wizards using both magic and melee weapons. The trailer is narrated by House of the Dragon actress Millie Alcock, whose narration hints towards the game story revolving around the protagonist's quest to overthrow the god Adur, a character from the first game. Unlike the Gamescom trailer for the Lords of the Fallen, this one seems to have an original score that fittingly matched the game's horror tones. Different locations ranging from caves, castles, and rundown towns are featured, many of which are shown in two different forms depending on whether the player character is using their lamp. The works of From Software have clearly been an influence on both games in the Lords of the Fallen series. Though the Japanese development studio already had a lengthy catalog through the shooter mecha series Armored Core and the King's Field series of RPGs, it was not until the success of Dark Souls in 2011 that the studio would become known worldwide. Although other games such as Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and the Nioh series followed in the Souls-like genre, they were all preceded by the original Lords of the Fallen. Now, over 8 years after its release, CI Games and Hexworks are bringing the series back, and it is only a matter of time until gamers see what the Lords of the Fallen has to offer. Publisher 505 Games unveiled crime boss Rockay City, an upcoming first-person shooter with a cast that's so incredibly stacked it would likely even turn heads if attached to a Hollywood blockbuster, let alone an indie heist game. The development of Crime Boss, Rockay City is handled by In-Game Studios, a Czech Republic-based company founded in 2020. According to the studio's website, its current staff encompasses over 70 people, including game industry veterans who previously worked on some globally successful projects such as Kingdom Come Deliverance and the Mafia series. The company appears to be much better funded than an average indie venture, as underlined by the fact that its offices are in what it describes as a downtown palace spanning more than 200 square feet. In-Game Studios' robust backing is also reflected by Crime Boss, Rockay City's star-studded cast, which includes Hollywood veterans like Michael Madsen, who's even involved in the game's marketing campaign, Kim Basinger, as well as Danny Glover, Danny Trejo, and Chuck Norris, among others. Most of the cast was involved in motion capture work on Crime Boss Rockay City, in addition to lending their voices and likenesses to the game's massive character cast. The TGA announcement trailer reveals that Crime Boss takes place in the titular Rockay City, a fictional Florida metropolis that seems to be influenced by the aesthetic of Grand Theft Auto Vice City. The main difference between the two Miami-inspired settings is that Rockstar's cult classic emulated the 80s, whereas Crime Boss, Rockay City will draw from the 90s. Gameplay-wise, the title will seemingly be closer to Overkill Software's Payday than the GTA series, as the developers say they are focused on delivering cinematic, action-packed heists. Contrary to what its star-studded cast might suggest, Crime Boss Rockay City is an AA game, as perhaps best evidenced by the fact it's set to launch at a modest price of $40. Epic obtained exclusive PC distribution rights to Crime Boss Rockay City, which also happens to be powered by its very own Unreal Engine 5. It remains to be seen what the upcoming arrival of Crime Boss Rockay City means for its publisher's other first-person heist game, given how Payday 3 is still targeting a 2023 release. Even if Payday 3 hasn't been hit with any significant delays over the course of 2022, it's likely that 505 Games will want to avoid launching it too close to In-Game Studios' debut title. So it's plausible that Overkill's next project could be pushed to 2024 while Crime Boss is finding its audience. CD Projekt Red finally offers a closer look at the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077 DLC with a new character included in the story, portrayed by none other than Idris Elba. Originally, the Phantom Liberty DLC was to be one of several post-launch plans for Cyberpunk 2077. However, much of the studio's plans have since been scrapped following its release back in 2020. Cyberpunk 2077 was one of the most disastrous game launches in recent history. However, the game saw a resurgence following months of bug fixes and updates. But its real breath of life came about after the hit Netflix Cyberpunk 2077 Edgerunners anime, where player count managed to jump by 300%. The game even reached 90% positive user reviews on Steam. With renewed interest in Cyberpunk 2077, the Phantom Liberty DLC is set to be CDPR's next ambitious release in the IP. Now, a new trailer sheds more light on what fans can expect. Premiering at the Game Awards, the second trailer showcases the return of V and Keanu Reeves' Johnny Silverhand enlisting the help of brand new character called Solomon Reed. Played by the illustrious Idris Elba, Solomon Reed comes as a mysterious FIA agent who is part of the new United States of America, NASA. The trailer also revealed a previously unseen area of Cyberpunk 2077 dubbed Dogtown, where V and Silverhand will team up with Reed for an espionage and survival-themed mission. The game is scheduled for a 2023 release and will come to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. Leading up to the trailer reveal, CDPR's global PR director Radek Grabowski shared that the studio is positioning Phantom Liberty as a premium expansion, in similar vein to The Witcher 3's Blood and Wine DLC. This would mean that the Cyberpunk 2077 DLC's pricing may be closer to $20, though CDPR is yet to announce the exact details. Additionally, the 2020 title will be getting a complete edition which packs in all of its post-launch content, including Phantom Liberty. This would mean that the Game of the Year edition of Cyberpunk 2077 will likely hit stores at some point next year. Although Phantom Liberty is the only planned DLC for the game in the foreseeable future, Cyberpunk 2077 will also get a follow-up from CDPR. Titled Project Orion, the company claims it's planning to speed up development following Phantom Liberty and that the Cyberpunk 2077 sequel might not reach pre-production until 2024. In any case, it will be interesting to see how CDPR will look to rebuild and capitalize on renewed interest for the growing franchise. The trailer for Behemoth, a virtual reality game in development from Skydance Interactive, is one such cool announcement. The trailer released was only a cinematic teaser, but Behemoth appears to be a dark fantasy sword-fighting game where the player must take down a massive beast similar to those found in Shadow of the Colossus. Players may be familiar with Skydance Interactive's previous VR experiences The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners and Archangel. The company is part of a larger digital media organization with ties to the VFX and film industry, which is on full display in Behemoth's vibrant and action-packed trailer. The opportunity to slay a terrifying beast at the scale Skydance is attempting could be as revolutionary to VR as Shadow of the Colossus was for the PlayStation 2. It is difficult to overstate the potential for Behemoth to deliver on the scale that Shadow of the Colossus's boss fights were so famous for in the PlayStation 2 era. Anyone who has had the pleasure of experiencing VR will say that large and open environments are where the medium is at its best. While many video games have attempted to capture a sense of vastness within the confines of a TV screen, with virtual reality, creating a real sense of scale is as simple as building a large environment and letting players explore. When players walk across tall buildings in VR, they can feel vertigo within their own bodies. They can feel claustrophobia simply by how small a room is relative to their own bodies. The player's brain creates these sensations organically because of the increased immersion of virtual reality. What this means is that while Behemoth may not be able to replicate the rushes of cold mountain winds or the sensation of gripping to a monstrous beast directly, the visual and sonic spectacle of virtual reality will fill in the most important gaps of that experience. Having the player be whipped around by the wind while they slowly scramble atop a creature whose sheer size makes the player feel as small as an ant by comparison. Embodying that kind of experience will be something as yet unseen in virtual reality. With virtual reality, it is often a development challenge to reduce the mental dissonance caused by navigating an environment without the ability to walk around naturally. The kind of fast-paced, movement-heavy rope swinging shown in the cinematic trailer for Behemoth may be a recipe for nausea rather than adrenaline, depending on how intense of an experience Skydance Interactive intends to create. Given the studio's previous track record with The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners and Archangel though, the developers have plenty of experience creating fine-tuned VR experiences for players, which bodes well for Behemoth. While gameplay has not been shown yet, the trailer suggests a combination of fantasy-inspired swordplay and climbing mechanics. Climbing works very well in VR thanks to the fact that vertical movement can be controlled entirely by the player's hands. Forward movement with a joystick can cause players to lose their balance or become nauseous since the brain feels that it should be moving forward while the body remains stationary. Focusing on mostly stationary combat and interspersing it with vertical climbing segments suits virtual reality very well and suggests that Skydance Interactive are making an experience that will be accessible to VR veterans and novices alike. As a major release for the MetaQuest 2, which serves as a key ambassador of VR technology for non-enthusiasts, Behemoth is well positioned to be a headset seller if it can live up to the hype. Skydance Interactive's deep experience with VR and the clear institutional push behind Behemoth suggests that Meta has a great deal of confidence in Skydance Interactive. As Behemoth's release draws nearer, it will be interesting to see what elements of this cinematic trailer make it into the final release. With fans highly anticipating an announcement by developer From Software at the Game Awards, many expectations have been shattered as the company has announced the development of Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon. A relatively more niche series from the developer, an Armored Core announcement might not be the Elden Ring DLC confirmation that some fans were expecting, but it is still a great surprise for fans. The announcement of Armored Core 6 came towards the end of the Game Awards. Considering that the Armored Core series has had a 10-year break until now, confirmation that a sixth game is finally coming is a huge boon for fans of the classic titles that reach all the way back to the PlayStation 1 era. However, while the trailer doesn't delve too deep into the story, it does show plenty of shots of the impressive mechs that players will be tasked with controlling and destroying at the same time. At the same time, the reveal doesn't exactly show much gameplay outside of the different designs that players might be able to use while playing the next Armored Core title. While an Armored Core 6 announcement wasn't entirely unpredicted, it is still a surprise that this is the only reveal by developer From Software during the Game Awards this year. Regardless, news from the Armored Core series is more than welcomed from fans who have hoped to see From Software's more recent successes lead to lesser-known franchises get this type of attention. Following the reveal of Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon, director Masaru Yamamura and From Software president Hidetaka Miyazaki discussed the gameplay loop of Armored Core 6 for returning veterans and new players in an interview. Armored Core 6 brings players to the distant planet of Rubicon 3, a world where corporations and organizations battle for control of a mysterious new substance that causes a planetary catastrophe. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice lead designer Masaru Yamamura is leading development of Armored Core 6 at From Software, while studio president Hidetaka Miyazaki performs a consultant-like role for the project. Ever since the reveal at the Game Awards, From Software fans have questioned the gameplay and mechanics for Armored Core 6. Yamamura and Miyazaki opened up about the mech title's gameplay loop in a recent interview at IGN, which also confirms a multiplayer mode for Armored Core 6. When asked about Armored Core 6's progression system and gameplay loop, Yamamura and Miyazaki confirmed that players may complete missions to earn money and upgrade mechs with new parts. Yamamura confirms a wide variety of mech parts will be available in Armored Core 6. These parts may be switched out entirely when customizing a mech for a mission. Players may tune their mechs and weapons to fit a play style of their liking, and various parameters may be changed in Armored Core 6. Miyazaki describes these features as part of Armored Core 6's general game cycle and leveling up. The gameplay loop of Armored Core 6 should be familiar to fans of past Armored Core games, according to Yamamura. Armored Core 6 will be a mission-based game, and the reveal trailer includes shots that made the game appear as if it were to be open world. In the interview, Yamamura stressed that Armored Core 6 is not going to be an open world game, and it will instead be mission-based, not unlike previous games in the Armored Core series. Yamamura explained that the shots in the trailer had made some think Armored Core 6 is going to be open world were just to showcase the kind of world that the game takes place in, establishing the setting as opposed to hinting at gameplay features. Mech customization and performance tuning are part of Armored Core's identity, so a sense of familiarity is welcomed by longtime Armored Core fans. A mech becomes stronger with newer and more capable parts, allowing players to progress the main story and take on dangerous missions in Armored Core 6. The interview did confirm, however, that Fires of Rubicon will have a versus mode similar to what's previously been seen in earlier series entries. According to Yamamura, players will be able to customize their mech and take that fully customized mech into battle with others. He continues to say, "This is a brand new setting and a brand new story for players to enjoy." While there will surely be some references and Easter eggs from previous games in the series, it looks like the long-running franchise won't be connected with the new entry to get a grasp on the narrative and gameplay of Armored Core 6. Armored Core 6 should take what's best from previous Armored Core games while modernizing controls and mechanics. At the same time, those interested in trying Armored Core for the first time should consider looking into past games in the series and mech genre. It's good to see From Software step back from Souls games to revisit the other franchise that put it on the map, and hopefully, Armored Core 6 will be a grand return to form. Final Fantasy XVI has its release date at last, as Square Enix and Naoki Yoshida unveil its breathtaking trailer at the Game Awards show. It has been a long journey for Final Fantasy XVI, as work on the next installment in the Final Fantasy saga started over 6 years ago, with key members of its team coming over from the acclaimed Heaven's Ward expansion for Final Fantasy XIV, and Yoshida taking on the daunting task of producing 2 major Square Enix projects at the same time. The influence of Naoki Yoshida and his team can be felt through every second of the new trailer, as Final Fantasy XVI promises a return to the franchise's roots of swords and sorcery. At its heart, it is a story of revenge, and though a tale as old as time, it promises a very captivating execution as players take on the role of Clive Rosefield, the firstborn son of the Archduke of Rosaria and the now confirmed dominant of Ifrit. Clive's tale is all about avenging his fallen kingdom, roaming the war-torn lands of Valisthea as he wrestles with his own inner demons. The release date for Final Fantasy XVI is set for June 22, 2023, as its trailer comes at the heels of previous one that debuted a month ago, each bearing the name of the game's 2 central themes, ambition and revenge. Needless to say, the in-game footage shown promises pure spectacle on a scale that Final Fantasy fans have been hoping for ever since the game was announced in September 2020. This action-packed trailer for Final Fantasy XVI is more than just flash and flare, as it confirms a lot of theories that Final Fantasy fans were speculating regarding the game's story, all the while allaying their deepest fears that it would lack the traditional Final Fantasy experience of a ragtag group of adventurers banding together. Clive will have friends and allies from across the many corners of Valisthea, as each of them gets swept up in the destiny of the Mother Crystals. In the lead-up to the release of Final Fantasy XVI's latest trailer, it was revealed by the Brazilian interactive rating system that the game would be rated in the country as unsuitable for children under the age of 16. Further, the rating stated that Final Fantasy XVI will feature drugs and torture in some capacity. During the 2022 edition of the Game Awards, the final trailer shown during the broadcast was titled Revenge, and was revealed in person by Final Fantasy XVI producer Naoki Yoshida. The trailer showed graphic imagery, including the visible, blood-spilling death of a chocobo within the first few seconds. The chocobo's demise cemented early on that the game would be rated M for mature in North America. The game was also rated similarly in Europe and other territories. According to Square Enix, Final Fantasy XVI's rating is due to violence, blood and gore, strong language, sexual themes, and partial nudity. A Final Fantasy XVI gameplay trailer titled Dominance was released in May 2022 and implied that nudity and sexual content would be featured in the game. At the Revenge trailer's conclusion, the release date of Final Fantasy XVI was revealed. The game will release on June 22, 2023 as a PS5 timed exclusive for 6 months. Pre-orders for Final Fantasy XVI began shortly after the conclusion of the Game Awards. The physical collector's edition will begin taking pre-orders on December 12 exclusively on the Square Enix store. While other entries in the Final Fantasy mainline series have typically received ratings of T for teen or similar, the M-rated nature of Final Fantasy XVI was out of necessity, according to Yoshida. Yoshida added that the story of Final Fantasy XVI is driven by a more personal narrative that the development team wants to tell. Between the tragedies surrounding the brothers Clive and Joshua Rosefield, the political machinations of the warring nations of Valisthea, and the mysterious powers granted by the Mother Crystals that can turn the dominants into the kaiju-like icons, the intrigue surrounding Final Fantasy XVI continues to grow. Square Enix has revealed the contents of the Final Fantasy XVI Collector's Edition. Many AAA video games get special collector's editions that offer all sorts of extra goodies and bonuses. These collector's editions often come with a figurine of the main character, a steelbook case, some in-game items, and other pieces of memorabilia. As an example, the collector's edition of Resident Evil 4 comes with a figurine of Leon S. Kennedy, a digital soundtrack, an art book, and various other physical and digital items. Square Enix has now detailed the contents of all the editions of Final Fantasy XVI that will be available. The Final Fantasy XVI Collector's Edition comes in a special box and contains a Clive Rosefield steelbook case, metal icon pin collection, the full game with a reversible cover, and a cloth map of Valisthea, the setting of Final Fantasy XVI. Most notably, it features a figurine depicting a fight between Phoenix and Ifrit. Final Fantasy XVI Collector's Edition is $350. Fans should note that Collector's Edition of FF16 will be available exclusively on the Square Enix store. On the other hand, gamers can pre-order the standard and deluxe editions of Final Fantasy XVI right now. The details of their contents were leaked before the Game Awards, and they appear to match the official versions. Fans will get digital versions of a mini art book and a mini soundtrack in the deluxe edition, alongside pre-order bonuses that increase the amount of XP and guild players earn. Square Enix will also release a physical deluxe edition of Final Fantasy XVI that comes with the above-mentioned steelbook case and a cloth map of Valisthea. June is shaping up to be a major month for video games across all platforms, as Diablo IV's release date has been confirmed for June 5, 2023. As a PlayStation exclusive, Final Fantasy XVI will no doubt command a lot of respect when it launches next year. These are the highlights of the Game Awards 2022. As the awards are just a popularity contest and politics, the only thing that mattered to me from shows like these are the new reveals. And that's all for the video, guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then, from SMPV, it's goodbye.